Hey guys, how are you? Let me know when you guys start hearing and seeing me, or if there's a problem. The quicker the better. Okay. So I'm a little nervous with this one just because like I'm flying solo. Mark's in the chat, so hi Mark. Anybody that doesn't know, Mark's my husband. The reason I'm flying solo today is he's actually working. We are in quarantine. So it's kind of funny because with quarantine, like he works from home, he works remotely primarily. So he actually only got he took 1 day off and has been working like the last 10 days. Whereas just because I'm in close contact with him, like I haven't had to go into work for 2 weeks. So this is actually my last day of quarantine, and then I will go back to work on Monday. But I figured on my last day of quarantine, I would do something fun with you guys. This is something different that you guys haven't really seen a whole lot from me. Now, if you were in my live Wednesday, like I showed a little bit of what today's video is going to be about, and I'm going to be releasing my video today at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it will also be painting related, so you kind of already get a little bit of insight as to what you're going to see. But today, like I'm going to be painting for you guys. I'm going to paint a donkey. I think it was Gloria, my mother-in-law, that suggested a donkey with a wreath of flowers around their head, and I haven't painted a donkey. I've painted goats and stuff before, but I really am excited to do some things with the donkey because I love them. They're awesome. And you guys can see I've already started like a little bit of a base coat here with like a really, really light fair blue, so that I've kind of got my focal point in the middle, and I'll go from there, or I add dark tones. So I see that we have Kate from Wonderland Acres in here. I saw Old Reading Farm was in earlier. I appreciate them stopping by earlier. Got Mark, Jenny. Hi, Jenny. Are you guys enjoying your e-learning day today? I know Joe was waiting patiently for all of that work to come up online. Much to her chagrin with me, like, hey, did they send anything yet? So, oh my goodness, that looks... We're with just the base, but you guys were like in a different setting today too. And I'm sorry, like they've got like this one bush of hair right here that just wants to kind of... It's distracting me. But we're actually in my craft room. So this is where, when I was working remotely, I did all my work from here. You guys are sitting like where my double monitors were sitting. And it's just like my general craft room. It's very pink and I love it. Good morning, Lady Tina, or Tina Ladybug. It's still morning here. My caffeine hasn't kicked in. How are you doing today, Tina Ladybug? It's good to see you. Margie's saying hi to you. Hi, Emma. How are you? Yes, let's paint. So I'm going to give it just a couple minutes to let some people come in, because it's going to be kind of hard for me to kind of pay attention to my chat while I'm painting. But I've already got I've got some of my earthy tones for my donkey there, and I will probably adjust the screen so you guys can see this better, because right now, like, you're primarily looking at me, and that's not what the stream's about. And I figured this would be a good one for me to go solo on too, because I'm not used to doing these without my partner in crime, Mark, who like brings a lot of comedic relief and keeps me really focused. So I figured this might be a good way to break myself in, because I'll be doing something, so I won't be so focused on trying to keep the chat alive and everything. So that'll be more for you. Oh, you're excited to see me paint, Margie. I'm glad somebody is, because I've been a little bit worried about this all week for some reason. I love painting, but it's just one of those things where like I don't usually do it in front of people. And not to mention, because Mark's working, I couldn't have my live like at our kitchen table, just because like if he goes on a call, I don't want to interrupt him, and I don't want him to interrupt me. So we're back in my craft room, so I had to hurry up and clean, because if anybody has a craft room, you guys know it becomes a storage room. So there was like all kinds of crap in here. But it's nice because then you guys got me to clean a whole room in my house and get it back kind of to where like I want it to be. And yeah, you guys see like I've already had a painting mishap before. He even got rolling. So, but yeah, today we're going to be painting a donkey. And I started out on my canvas here. I'm going to start turning you guys, so I'm sorry for squeaking. But I've started out with like a really airy baby blue, sky blue on here, so that the darker tones of a donkey's fur will kind of pop. And that's something that I think most people that do paint realize, especially for something like this. This is going to be more subject matter focused. It's not going to be building up a landscape. And usually if like you're going to be doing landscape paintings, you start from like the back and work your way forward, and you make all these happy little trees like Bob Ross. So oh, I'm sorry, Mark. I mean, I like that you're saying hi to Jenny. But yeah, we are painting a donkey with a wreath of flowers. And I take many, many pictures of my donkeys all the time and usually post them either on my Instagram account or on my Facebook page, Mulvey Branch Farm. So I am going to actually be doing, painting a picture of Rennie because she's always so still and she like poses for pictures. So let me see if I can, I don't know if you guys can see this or not. So like there, you see, she's just kind of like looking dead at me, and Lola's in the background. So I could choose from either one of those. But she's got like a really deep, rich, chocolatey gray face. So I feel like that's going to be best on this background. And if you're ever kind of confused as to, like for this with subject matter painting, if you're ever confused as to what kind of background you want to use, if you're just going to use a swirl or just a typical color base, and you want it to stand out, the best practice is to find where you're at on the color wheel and go across the opposite end of the color wheel. And that would be like your background. But because she's like a rich gray, I figured white, and I like blue. I think blue will look really good along with pastel greens and purples and yellows and pinks for the flower wreath, which are all colors that I'm planning to use. So I'm actually going to go ahead. You guys see, like, I've left this middle part white, and the reason for that being is it's going to make it easier for me to get on there and make my dark tones really, really rich. If I had already gone over this with a blue and then I started trying to go over with a rich dark brown, that blue would bleed through and it'll require more layering, which this will probably require a lot of layering, but I'm hoping that we'll be able to move around. So once I've got my base laid here for Rennie, our donkey's face, I'll move back out to the background and kind of hit it with some richer blues or maybe some really pastel yellows to pull in some streaks of green. I really like messing with paint while it's wet. I don't like doing a layer and it drying. I really like to see colors mesh and see what we get from them, and I think it just makes it really interesting, and I like colors, so that's what we're going to be doing. I don't know, guys. It's crazy. And Mark is my mod today, so hopefully, because I told him, like, this would be a perfect time. And you know, like, when I'm trying to paint and not really paying attention to chat, this will be the time when I'll get a troll come in here and be gross. So I've been really lucky so far. And I've got all of I've got another palette for the pastel paints. I'm using all my earthy tones on this palette over here, just because it's just easier to keep them separated. And you don't have to have like a paint palette like that. I've used paper plates in the past. I've used plastic cups, solo cups for paint. Whatever can hold paint will do just fine with whatever you're painting. Can you guys see this okay? I guess like the better question will be when I start painting if you can see it okay. And I will try to keep my attention on chat on and off so that I can kind of talk to you guys while I'm doing it and answer questions. Or if you guys say, hey, we can't see crap, then yeah. And I've kind of got you guys set up like I've got a window behind you. So I'm hoping that doesn't like over illuminate and kind of bleach out all of my colors. So Rennie is a rich gray and brown. So I'm actually going to start with just like, it's not the darkest brown out there, but it's pretty dark. I probably need to get my reference to stay up here for just a second while. And there's no shame painting from references. I've painted plenty from just memory without looking at a reference, but there's no shame, especially if you're really wanting to get this is gonna be hard for me to talk and paint. I usually get really quiet, but if you want to get correct proportions, there's no shame in keeping a reference picture at all, and it helps you figure out your points of light if you're going for realism. And right now what I'm just kind of doing is I'm going through, and this is going to be her brow, so I'm just going to kind of go through and lay my base, and we'll probably layer up just to give her a nice. And the reason I picked a recent picture is I love the way that the donkeys look in wintertime because they get a lot of fur. They get this nice little like fro going all over their bodies, and I find it super, super duper cute. I'm just gonna round it up here. And if you want nice, even tones, and it's really controlled, long strokes, but if you want to add texture, it's a lot of really quick, just like Bob Ross would tell you. And there's no mistakes when you're painting. We 100% believe in the Bob Ross way, that there are only happy little mistakes. They're okay. I'm going to kind of bring her cheekbone down. So what's everybody got going on this weekend? I know Sunny's Place is going to be having a live, I think it is, correct me if I'm wrong, Emma, you're at 12 Central Standard Time. So that's like 1 o'clock my time. But you're going to be doing spoon carving, and I think that is super cool. I don't want to say that I used to. I do scrimshaw, which is kind of like carving, but with bone or a powder horn. I used to do that a lot more, but that market is just kind of, nobody even knows what scrimshaw is anymore. I'm not sure if anybody in here knows what scrimshaw is, but then again, I do have a pretty awesome group in here, especially with homesteading. Some of you guys might actually know what scrimshaw is, but my mother was an art teacher growing up, so she taught me a whole lot about art, but I didn't take art like in college, and I only took art in high school up to like, I may have only done it my freshman year. My art teacher did not like me, like at all. It didn't matter what I did. Like I was not going to please her, and she was not a constructive critic. Like you could tell, or maybe I was just thin-skinned. A very angsty teenager. I had a gothic. Mark knows. Mark met me when I was going through a very gothic era in my life, which there's nothing wrong with self-expression, especially at a young age. You kind of are just figuring out who you are and what you're doing with your life. And I came out of that. I feel like I'm a little well-rounded from it because I learned a lot and I've changed a lot. You never know what you're missing out on until you actually, experience a little bit. Then you can be kind of specific on what you want to keep in your life and what you don't want to keep in your life. Okay. So I just got my base for Miss Rennie. I'm going to pull her ears up. We're going to base those too. She's just got nice long little ears. Nice, beautiful, fluffy ears. Just out there hanging around, listening for the sounds. Listening for me to come out the back door so she can bray and let everybody know that food may be coming. I used to be able to sneak up on my goats at feeding time. They'd be like out in the field and they wouldn't see me come out. So then I would get a head start. No, not anymore. Ren watches for me, and she starts watching, I think, around 2 to 3, because I've been home. So she's adjusted her schedule with mine. So around 2 to 3, like she starts watching. And the moment I step out of the door, like she's braying and the whole herd comes flying up. So I'm not an incognito feeder anymore. Like she makes it where I don't really get to get a head start. I get a full mosh pit of goats every feeding time, thanks to Rennie, which is fine. You kind of buy into that when you're going to get goats or anything that's food driven, like most livestock. So we're just going to kind of pull her ear up here. This ear space just a little bit back. I'm just going to kind of pull it. I'm just going to do a light gray through there. I'm not going to hit it too hard, just so I can get some gray tones to pop through after I start to layer it with like whites or browns or blacks or however I want to layer it. And it's probably not going to be 100% look like her, but there's a reason I only paint animals. Because like if I mess up an animal, you can still tell it's a donkey. If I were to, so like let's say I was going to take a picture of beautiful Kate or beautiful Emma or handsome Mark in here. If I got the bridge of your nose wrong, you no longer look like you. And that's too much pressure for me when I'm doing anything when it comes to painting or drawing. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, but that challenge scares me. I never do a good job at it, so. Hi, Jeremiah. I'm going to give this a second to kind of dry right where I'm at because I've left her muzzle down here open because I need to mix in some white. And I'll probably start like right down below and work it up into the gray so that I can kind of do a little bit of blending. I don't ever want to start like a light color right on top of a wet dark color because odds are the dark color is going to work, or is going to win in that battle. So, and it'll be easier for me to take the white from the bottom and just work it up into her muzzle and start to highlight her face. So I'm going to just take a second and look in the chat here. Oh, Mark, you're doing such a good job. Good job. Sunny, do you know what scrimshaw is? I saw Mark's in there, so I'm trying to scroll work and great. You are so right. Yeah. It's tough too. And we found that when I first started, so my mom has been doing scrimshaw for what, 30 years, since like before I was born. I'm 32 right now, for anybody that needs to know or cares to know. She'd been doing scrimshaw before I was born, and as I was growing up, she always told me, she's like, you need to try this because you have a little bit of artistic skill. And I didn't start doing it until I was 21 and pregnant with Joe, because I mean, I was 21 and pregnant with Joe. So we were still living with Mark's mom and dad. We were already married and everything, so no children out of wedlock. And I needed a side hustle because having a baby kind of kills your whole career aspect there for a little while. So I was trying to get a side hustle going, and scrimshaw was something I could do quietly with her without disturbing her and utilizing some of my own artistic skills. Scrimshaw is, so it's scroll worked and done on bone, but it can also be done on ivory, depending on if you've got legal elephant ivory like pre-70s, before like all of those enactments were put into law. And even now, like, you can still have legal ivory, you just have to have paperwork, and those laws actually are different from state to state. So I work a lot of mammoth ivory. So mammoth ivory is not illegal here because it's extinct. They're gone. They've been gone forever. And there are actually a lot of places in Indiana where you can find mammoth tusk, mammoth bone, just all over the place. So I primarily work with a lot of mastodon and mammoth tusk, which is beautiful because depending like where that animal fell and became fossilized, their tusks or their bones will be whatever color of the minerals that had the most influence in that area where they came to lay to rest. So we've got some black ivory, mammoth ivory. We've got some really rich tones. Like, it's super cool. Isaac, do you know if you will get any more? Isaac, I would really like to get more rabbits in the future, but I'm a little overwhelmed. I'm not going to lie. Like, we're kind of at capacity with a lot of things. If we did, it would be Bun Bun would get a girlfriend because he's just so sweet. So nice. Hi, Jeremiah. But he's super sweet, and we really enjoy having him. But any other rabbits that probably come to our farm will be for meat purposes. So, Kate, you were 21 and pregnant too. I know. It just is what it is. We were already married. It just was like one of those things. I was 6.5 months pregnant before I found out I was pregnant. I was one of those people, and I was like, I don't know what's going on. Like, nothing was awry. Let's just put it that way. Like, I didn't get sick. I wasn't missing anything. If you get my drift, I just kind of, that's what was happening. Oh, tell them about the kneecap you did. Okay. So and the type of paint I'm using is acrylic. I use the apple barrel acrylic paints from like Walmart or Hobby Lobby, really easy. I like painting with oil paints, but for something like this where we're moving pretty quickly, like, I just think acrylics are better. So I actually had a lady come up when I was doing a show where it's more like primitive skills or primitive art. So like, you'll get like a living history or a living history encampment where they've got their wares for sale. So we would often bring like our powder horns or any type of bone that we'd done scrimshaw on. And I had a lady approach me, and she actually had surgery done on her knee. They had removed her kneecap and replaced it with some type of metal substitute in there. But she's like, would you be offended if I asked you to scrimshaw my kneecap? And bone, especially like human bone, fresh bone, has to cure for a while because it's very porous. And if you try to scrim on bone that's still wet, like, it'll literally just like flake off. It'll get real crumbly, and then you won't get any definition, because we use like a really fine stainless steel needle point on it to do our etchings, and we would polish it. So even like polishing down bone like that, you would never get the gleam on it that you need to get those lines to stand out. So she's like, yeah, I talked to the doctor. We're already curing it. It'll be great. And she says, I injured my kneecap and had to have it replaced because we were, what is that? They're paragliding. They're paragliders. And she'd had an accident where she had injured her kneecap. And that was the reason it had to be removed. She's like, could you put like a paraglider on the kneecap? So I've done scrimshaw on human bone, which I thought some people might think like that is super gross, but I was like, yeah, I was all about that. I like getting to do different things, and I always want to have like those things where I'm like, yeah, I got to do this, and it's a great story. She really appreciated it. She really liked what we did for her, but like, yeah, I've done scrimshaw on a human bone, and that was pretty amazing. Um, we've done scrimshaw on Usyk, and Usyk is a walrus penis bone. For anybody that needs to know that, because they're kind of like raccoons, they have a bone through their member, and it's not uncommon for like those people to be like, "Hey, I've got Usyk," and they'll start snickering, like, "Oh, do you do work on Usyk?" And I'm like, "Oh, do you mean a walrus penis bone? Yeah, we do work on that." Like they try to get the whole blush factor, and it's like, please. I've scrimshawed on a human kneecap. I don't care about your walrus bone. So I don't know who needs to know that, but that's something that we've done in the past. Trying to think what else. Oh, and you'd be surprised when you do scrimshaw, like the amount of people that come up with like black market stuff. So my mom was actually offered a narwhal tusk, which is extremely illegal to have. Like the guy had 3 of them, and my mom was like, "Get away from it!" Like she's like, "We want nothing to do with this. Like you need to get away from our tent, our stand, our table, wherever we were at, because like even at those primitive encampments, you do have DNR that's walking around and looking, because sometimes people will have pelts for sale, and depending on what state you're in, sometimes badgers are protected in one state and not the other state. So you have to be really careful about what you're doing your work on. And when I was teaching scrimshaw classes, that was one of the things that I made sure to tell them, like, hey, don't just pick up like a turtle shell and scrimshaw and put it on your table, because like those are actually highly illegal. Because I don't know if anybody here knows this, but usually like turtles are very indicative of an ecology and how healthy or unhealthy it is dependent on the population of turtles in that area. So it's important to leave the turtles alone. And that's why you have like a lot of people that are about the box turtles. Yeah, you're moving them from their home range, but they're also ecologically, they're very important to their environments to kind of be as a markers, like how is that environment doing in comparison to other environments. So the more you know. I know. Hey, Jeremiah, do you like that? So my last name starts with a B, so I'm like, well, I'm just going to be put B Ross. Hey, Evelyn, how are you? This is information I know. Well, you're welcome, Kate. You're welcome. I'm really glad that you're getting information that you need. You guys are learning a whole lot about us today. So, like, this is stuff that would never come up, like, probably in one of our lives, just because, like, we're not doing anything artistic. And I know you guys probably can't see this white down here, but you will as I start to layer it up. So, she kind of, yeah. Do you guys have any hidden skills that I don't know about? That's something that I think would be awesome to know. Do you guys do anything that you're like, yeah, this never comes up in my life, but I have this skill, or I've done this and nobody would ever know just by, looking at me or talking to me that I do that. So, okay, let me get some black. I've got all my stuff over here. You can see the white. Okay, because I don't know what you guys can see, because like it looks washed out on my side, but then I'm like, it might not be washed out on their side. So, yeah. Mark, can you think of anything else really weird? Guys get super creepy at those rendezvous. They're called rendezvous, or like the historical encampments. They get very machismo, and they get weird, like weird. Or they'll come up and they'll want like really nasty things put on like their powder horn. So at those shoots, like usually it's because like people are gathered together and they're doing like a muzzleloader shoot. So in our area down in Friendship, Indiana, there are National Muzzleloader Rifle Association shoots that happen in the springtime and in the fall time. So usually we're down there in the spring and the fall. And these guys they're competition shooters, and some of them are really good. Some of them are really stand-up people. Like they're just great, and there are other people that are just creeps. So they'll bring like a powder horn and they'll want like really lewd scenes. And by lewd, I'm pretty sure you guys can figure out what I'm saying. I mean, if they get weird about like Usyk, and that, I think there's only been a couple things where I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that for you, because it's just weird. I don't know. That's the great thing about artistic abilities. You get to stop them. You don't have to do what you don't want to do. So I have the right to refuse to paint or scrimshaw, whatever it is they're wanting me to scrimshaw or paint if I don't agree with it. And those fellows down there, they are quite opinionated. But some of them are like the nicest, coolest people that you will ever meet, like in your entire life. Would give the shirt off their backs. So, and Joe, like, we go down there, and usually my mom will camp. So, well, Mark and I, because we have the farm, we can't really go to these camps or do like the camp outs for like the whole weekend, because animals, donkeys, they all have to be fed. I can't just like run away just for that weekend. So my mom will usually like camp with Joe, and like those guys down there that aren't creepers are so nice. Like they will look out for you and everything. That's another community that I think is super cool to be a part of, as long as you're a part of it in the right way. So let's see. It's not weird at all. It's not weird at all about carving on human bone. It is. I thought it was really cool, and like I was glad that she already knew a little bit about curing bones, because some people would just. I was worried she's gonna like whip out like this box with her kneecap that was like uncured and still like gross, but she's like, oh no, we're curing it, we got it ready. So, and a lot of people actually bring materials to you. So I've done taglewood nut. So taglewood nut comes from the taglewood tree, and they're actually called ivory nuts. They grow down in South America, and they scrim just like elephant ivory. Yes, I have scrimmed elephant ivory that was legal and papered and was commissioned to do it. As long as you're papered, you're fine. But that stuff, we've done hippo teeth, we've done seal teeth, elk teeth, and elk ivory is really hard to come by. Like really, really hard to come by. And usually like that's fossilized elk, that's very ancient stuff, and it's worth a whole lot of money. I'm trying to think what else. Mark, is there anything you can think of that we've done or that I've done work on that was just kind of really interesting? Like I've got a whole bunch of stuff. Like I don't know if you guys can see, like I'll try to move, but like back here, right there in this area, there's like a mastodon knuckle back there. There's a whale, a fossilized whale vertebra. So I like to collect weird stuff. Ask Mark. Like I like going to like the geology shows and stuff, eating like fossil petrified wood. But like this is mastodon or mammoth ivory, and it's black. So wherever this guy fell, and it's polished. Like usually you won't find the mastodon tusk like this. This has already been buffed down. And when you buff down mastodon tusk or mammoth tusks, it smells like a dead animal. It smells awful. The things you learn. So yeah, we've got all kinds of things that we probably shouldn't have. We should never have an interest in having, but we do. They never get ungrown. I love that, Emma. That's so funny. My son is 28 and still grows. You know, Mark has his moments. I mean, I think everybody has their moments when they're just kind of like, ew, why are you acting like that? Or why are you talking like that? I think you covered them all. But I'm sure there'll be something that, yeah, there always is. There always is. But I think my biggest pet peeve, like working with scrimshaw, is you get somebody that comes to you with a commission piece, and they go, oh, take your time. We know like art happens over time and it shouldn't be rushed. 2 weeks later, like, where's my piece? I expected quality work. I'm like, this is hand done. You gave me raw ivory. I have to buff it down. I have to polish it. Then I have to design it, and I have to scratch it and then rub ink into it and then seal it again. If you could just give me a second. Because, and if anybody that wants to check that out, I haven't added to it in a really long time, but I used to put all of my scrimshaw work on my Facebook page, Scratching Post Scrimshaw. Like scratching post, like is like a cat, and it's got a cat eye like for the profile picture, the icon. but I haven't added to that like in years. I kind of got burnt out. I was making a lot of art for Scrimshaw, and with anything like that, if it's not in your own time, I got burnt out because people were doing the whole, hey, we want it and we want it now. Like, we want all this quality for nothing. And people would like just, I think the worst insult I ever got while pricing out a commission, was like, well, my 10-year-old could do that. And my response was like, well, when he does, make sure you bring it back, because I would love to see and critique his piece. Because people are really, artistically, people can be super rude when they don't understand the time or effort that goes into making things. And I'm sure, Emma, your husband probably gets that all the time with metalworking. People think that that's like a right then and there thing. It's like, no, there's a lot that goes into it. Especially like the people down there that would like brain tan their skins or anything like that. People would want it because it was super soft and pliable and works really good and is very comfortable to wear. They'd want it right then and there. It's really hard not to get burnt out with that group. And you would think they'd have like already a knowing and an appreciation. You know, what you're doing is not, it's not, I think we get really caught up in a society where like I can go to Walmart and I can buy a painting that I don't have to wait on. It's done, it's there. And Amazon, eBay, all those things like that. And the people just don't understand when you're doing something by hand, it takes time. It takes time. And usually it's going to cost a little bit more money because you're paying for the artisanship. And especially like with Scrimshaw, because a lot of the materials that we work on, they're not easy to come by, and they're becoming ever more legally hard to come by. Even like mastodon tusks. Like, so for my paper ivory that I have worked on or have had in the past, like I can sell it in Indiana, but I cannot take it to Ohio. And I live like right on the Ohio line. So when I do Ohio shows or Kentucky shows, I have to only take mastodon or mammoth. But you're also competing with like knife makers or people that want to work it into their own jewelry or work it into pistol grips, things like that. It's really crazy. But like I miss it a little bit, but not a whole lot. Those people are they kind of really are demanding. Let me try to catch it. Good morning, Patty. How many children do we have, Jeremiah? We have one. We were blessed with one. She was a surprise because I was 6.5 months pregnant before I found out, and that was really stressful. That's a whole nother story. You get the news, you're like, you've got 2.5 months to prepare for your life to change. I was on birth control and everything. I actually went to get my birth control renewed, and the doctor was like, honey, no. Mm-mm. But I hadn't really started to show or anything, so that was kind of weird. The way that my insides are set up, like they face towards the back, so I didn't show until like 8 months, and I popped. So everything sits towards the back, where most people's like sit towards the front. The more you know about Ashley and Mulberry Ranch Farm, I guess. Mini kit, yeah, goats. Mark knows. It's like we overcompensate with our kids for our goats. Mass production is inexpensive. Yes, Patty, it is. It is, and I think it just, I don't know, like it undervalues craftsmen, craftswomen. It undervalues a lot of, well, like Scrimshaw is really becoming a forgotten art. So I'll hold classes and we'll go over like the history and like the derivative. Where the word Scrimshaw was derived from is actually a Dutch derivative, and it means to waste time. So Scrimshaw was born basically on whaling boats. They were bored. They were chasing whales all over to harvest their oils, to harvest their teeth, to harvest their meats, things like that. And I mean, those teeth were sitting around, and they were perfect for a lot of those sailors' memory boxes, especially sperm whale teeth fit perfectly. And they'd actually use the pitch from the ships. So they would have like a needle or just something really sharp that they would use those teeth to carve pictures of home or their sweethearts or the places that they grew up or things that they were seeing at sea. And they would seal in those scratches with the pitch that was used to seal the ships. And it makes sense to waste time, because I'm sure like you're over the entire ocean like searching for these creatures. There had to be a lot of downtime, and you can only like swab the deck so many times. So I totally understand where these people were coming from when it came to the derivative of to waste time. and it became wildly popular again in North America with JFK. He was actually like a big collector of ivory, really blew up the scrimshaw scene again. But obviously, a lot of the harvesting for ivory and scrimshaw was done illegally through poaching and has endangered a lot of ivory bearers around the world. So it's hard to get a hold of that ivory, but legal ivory that is papered still exists. But I mean, if I pick up a piece of legal ivory, and it happened at one point years and years ago, where the girl asked, she's like, "What is this on?" I'm like, "Well, that's a hippopotamus tooth." She's like, "Well, I don't believe in poaching." And I'm like, "Well, this was legally harvested, and the teeth. I mean, she literally thought like I went over to Africa and poached a hippo." I'm like, "No, like here's the papers to show that this was like legally harvested and is allowed to be used for artwork." But so that's why we've really moved to like Tagala nut, which is an organic nut from South America, and we've moved to mammoth and mastodon. And I haven't done scrimshaw in like 2 years, guys. But it is a very fun art, and it continued in North America, especially through like the Revolutionary War, when we were out here exploring and doing our expeditions, because you very well couldn't carry a paper map, especially when you're exploring. The elements would just destroy it. So they would use powder horns that would supply the powder for their black powder rifles. And they would usually put that area, whatever area they were in, they would have scrimshawed maps. So that would be like their map they would carry with them, but also doubled as carrying and keeping their powder dry that they may need in attempts to harvest animals for food, or if they came into conflict with another group of people. So that's just kind of where all that came from. But scrimshaw also went away when electricity came around, because we didn't need those oils from the whales anymore. And then it stopped being on powder horns because we started using cartridge loads. We weren't using like black powder and measuring it out like you would for like a muzzle loader or anything like that. So we've come a long way, and that's why that art is kind of faded and gone. All right, so we kind of just got like a base here. Oh, see, Kate, I'm glad I wasn't like the only one, because people like look at me and they're like, "How did you not know?" And I'm like, literally, my body told me nothing. When I went to go get my birth control renewed, they do like a pregnancy test. That was just like the way that office ran. And they're like, "Yeah, honey, you don't need to." So it was crazy. It was very crazy. We were not trying. I was on birth control the entire time, apparently, which then later that birth control was, what was it, Mark? It was like marketed as PMS symptom control, because it was no longer working as birth control. But I'm blessed because Josie came when she was supposed to, and things like that work out in your life. So I'm glad that she came when she was supposed to, because I don't think like I truly ever would have been ready for a daughter. I would never have been ready to be a mommy, but it has been one of the best and most rewarding things in my life to be Josie's mommy. And I'm sure a lot of the ladies in here feel that way about their loved ones and their little ones. I'm just glad some things in my life did happen in that way, because like I never would have been ready. I never would have been on the end of saying, "Yep, I'm ready to be a mom. I'm ready to start trying." So, and I thought like I wasn't going to be able to do it that way, because my mother had a very hard time conceiving myself and my sister. So I figured like I would probably genetically, I figured like I had that predisposition genetically to not be able to conceive easily. Joke's on me. Oh, dropping my paintbrush on the carpet. Good thing it's my craft room. I'm just going to start adding some earthier tones, since I've gotten off on all kinds of tangents, but I figured that might happen. So, and I'm doing quick strokes here just to kind of give that appearance of fluffiness, because she's a fluffy lady. And for those of you that came in before, like this is Renegade. Rennie, my miniature donkey that we're using, is like a model here. But I need to shut up a little bit too and actually paint. That's the bad thing. Like when I talk, I like to look at you guys. Look at you guys. But I also don't want to sit here and paint and like not talk at all. Oh, you'd been trying, Kate? That's kind of nice. Happy Friday to you too, Quaint Acres. Nice to see you in here. Yeah, Mark's right. Like it was crazy. Like that time, I will never forget that period in our lives because like it was like hitting the ground running. But we've kind of always operated in that way, where we are very type A and now, faster, faster, faster. So I feel like we adapted pretty easily to the whole idea that there was going to be another member of our family. And she is just all fire and vinegar. So it keeps us very, very entertained. I don't know if any of you guys have seen Jo like in the backgrounds of some of our videos. Like she's just like Mark though. Like she gives like the best one-liners, or she gives like this very weird perspective that I can appreciate because when you're a kid you don't understand everything. Like you're gonna have those weird perspectives. But I really enjoy getting those from her. So we are just gonna kind of, she gets a little bit darker from her cap down. So I'm gonna get a little bit more scarce and probably just try to highlight more of like the angles of her face and where her bones, her natural structure, her natural engineering of her skull kind of get things to dip and come down. Donkeys are one of those things too. Like I never thought I'd have a donkey on my farm, and now I'm like I will never not have a donkey on the farm. And they've only been here since what, Mark, September or October, I think. So they've quickly made an impression on us, and it's a good impression because I've had animals too where I'm like, after these are gone, never again. But I'm really weird about specific animals. Like once they come, like even if they're not my favorites, like I made the conscious decision to bring them to the farm and to introduce them and make them a resident here. And especially if they don't serve like a meat or egg purpose, then I just kind of let them stay here. The goats are kind of the only thing that I rotate in and out, but it's because of the breeding program that we have with our goats. So we're striving for like milk lines, show lines, or just overall healthy, well-structured goats that can have long, productive lives in the dairy realm. So that's where I get a little bit picky, but it's hard because I like, Mark knows, like every goat's born, I want it to stay, and Joe's the same way. Joe gets very upset when we have to sell some of these goats. But I'm like, we can't keep all of them. I would like to keep all of them, but it would take a whole lot. A whole lot. Thanks, Jeremiah. You're heading out. I appreciate you being here. So Joe Mama. Hi, Joe Mama. I didn't know you came in. I'm sorry. It's because I'm doing I was told I couldn't have children. I had ectopic pregnancy that exploded the month I went off birth control. I got pregnant. That's so good though. And I love stories like that where they're like, the doctor said I would never have babies because like this had happened to me. And then you've got these stories where they're like, once I kind of chilled out and just let things go the way they were going to go and got off of birth control, like that's just what happened. And I just think that's a huge blessing because my mom was kind of the same way. She'd had many, many, many miscarriages, and they had said you may want to just stop focusing on trying to have your own children and adopt. She actually had started the adoption process on a little boy, and then in a month found out that she was pregnant with me. And it had turned out that little boy was kind of like, it was between her and another family. So that little boy didn't go without a family just because I was born or anything. But she was like, it was just funny. Like when I stopped worrying and I kind of just let my body stop stressing, was like, what happens happens. And she was kind of at peace with the whole not going to have her own children. Like sure enough, she had me. And then they said, now you definitely won't have any other children. I have a younger sister by 2 years. So those medical professionals aren't always 100% right. But they're making the most educated guesses that they can based off of experiences and what they've seen with other people. So just trying to look at this picture because she's got like she's so fluffy on one side and not the other side in this picture. So I'm going to try to even her out a little bit and then bring in some dark tones. So have you guys ever tried to like go along with Bob Ross when he's painting? Because Emma had shown me a picture that her daughter had done like Bob Ross style, and it was amazing. I've never really tried to paint along with him, even though I'm sure that his style of teaching is just one of those things that he's just so positive too. So positive. I would have a hard time, like, especially like with this. I don't do well when I feel like my paintings are not going in the way that I want them to go. So I admire that he kind of like just kept a really calm head about everything that he was doing, because I can't. I'm just gonna be real honest. I'm just gonna give her some little dots through here, run down and through, and then I'll come back over with white. And I'm using like an 11 by 14 canvas, and you can find all these canvases like this. This is like a stretch canvas too. It's not like the tough ones. I think I can get this off of there. Yeah. You guys see, like, it's the ones that are mounted on the back. I kind of like these for like just real fun paintings because they've got give, and I feel like they allow you to manipulate the paint more. But like if you're doing like serious painting, they have like that canvas that's like hard backed. It's not stretched over like a wood frame like this, and sometimes those are really fun. I've done a couple paintings for Mark like that. Like I've done a painting of white-tailed deer on a pond, like near a cornfield. That was like when I was first starting to paint, because painting is not like my first media of choice. My first media of choice is pen and pencil. But I think that's why I took to scrimshaw too, because it is a lot like, I use it a lot like I would a pen or a pencil. But I think it's important, like especially if you're artistic or you're wanting to become artistic and wanting to paint just to like express, to find a media that suits you first, to get you comfortable, to build your skill and to build your technique, and then going from there. So Mark, when I started painting, I didn't start painting until like 3 years ago. 3 years ago, and then even then it's on and off. I usually tend to paint like on Christmas break because I work at that university and I get 2 weeks off, and usually after a week I've gotten everything kind of caught up around the farm. That didn't happen this year. I don't know what was wrong with me this year. But I usually try to do it that way. I've got her, she's coming up. She's got her ear turned out a little bit on this side. So I'm just bringing in like a nice smooth brown, because even though like her donkey's ears, though she's fluffy, she's got like tufts on the end, like the backs of her ears are actually really smooth and fine. They get a little bit fluffier, but not as much. So like I'll probably do more texture work up around the tufts of her ears. I need to kind of bring this down through here too. And if you didn't want to use a reference picture, like I've said before, references are just if you want to kind of get a good, let's see, there's why it's hard to go when you've got really, really dark colors that are not all the way dry yet. I'm just going to kind of come in over there a little bit wetter than, there we go. That kind of fixed it. Barn painting doesn't count right now. Barn painting doesn't count, Mark. If that were the case, we've been painting our entire lives. I hate painting like rooms. I hate painting fences. And we've actually, I think some of our fences need painted this year, Mark. I hate to say that, but I think they do. So Mark said, anybody in chat ever tried painting a barn quilt or wanted to? Ooh, that's a good question, Mark, because I would love to do the barn quilts. There's actually a person that has a class not far away from us, but that's a whole, like, I have to make free time, and free time doesn't really exist right now, except for right now. Do you love live chats? I do. I appreciate having live chats because I feel like you guys get to see a different side of like myself or Mark outside of like the barn, because it's a little difficult sometimes to be as forthright or like give you as much background. So you guys actually have got like a lot of background on us, our lives with Joe, pregnancies, all kinds of weird stuff that I usually wouldn't even dream of talking about like in a video, because a lot of YouTube creators will create their own niches or niche. I guess it's a niche. I don't know. Correct me if I'm saying that wrong, anybody that hears me out there. But a lot of people will direct their YouTube content to their decided niche. And our decided niche is like livestock husbandry, livestock care, gardening, homesteading, self-sufficiency, things like that. So Like, it doesn't really come up very often where I'm telling you, hey, I do scrimshaw, or we used to do primitive encampments, or this is the arts that we do, this is what I do in my free time, this is a little bit of background on like pregnancies or like how we built our family. You wouldn't get that like in our regular content. So I do appreciate lives for that reason. My daughter would sit and watch Bob Ross for hours. He had like a very calming influence. Emma's back. We were always seemed to catch him after school, and it was a nice wind down. So I had Mark. I'm going to tell a story about the Bob Ross that had Joe went. Okay, so Joe went to a birthday party one year, and she was super excited. And Joe's really outgoing. And the mother had said, she's like, you can either stay, or you can go. It's not a big deal. And I figured Joe 100%. She was just so even keeled and so outgoing that she was going to tell me to go home. And no, she's like, no, I want you to stay. I'm not planning to stay. So like I was helping like this girl's mother and father like get their pizzas. They did like homemade pizzas and they were doing crafts, so I was helping. But then he was like dragging out like all his paintings that he had done when staying up late to watch Bob Ross because he had extreme anxiety. But like he was showing me all these paintings and I appreciated it, but I was also like, I don't know you. This is not. I don't know, like, if just someone in my house, I don't think that's how I would have gone about that situation, but then again, like, everybody's different. Maybe I had a very personable sense about me, I don't know. They were different. Very nice people, just very different. And I'm just kind of taking this down in her muzzle because she's not like stark white down here. So I kind of layered with some patching for a light brown so that I can build. And like you guys are probably going to watch me move this muzzle where it meets the dark up and down a lot with layering, but so be it. So I'm going to let this layer sit for a second, and I'm actually going to move to my outside. And I don't know, guys, I'm going to use, where'd it go? I have all this paint over here. I'm trying to figure out where, oh, there it is. So this is a deep sea. I don't know if you guys can like see. Let me turn it around. You see that color? So I'm thinking about using like this really rich blue to kind of mold in with the light blue just to kind of pop and give dimension. I'll let you guys decide. What color do you think we should use with this? Because this is a light baby blue, like in the background. What do you think other colors should be melded in? Because I'm going to probably work on the background to let this layer set and then build forward some more. So, yeah, she's got an interesting face, doesn't she? I feel like I need to pull this out, just out this way, and give her a little bit more form. Maybe bring it in like a little bit because their faces are dished weird. They don't draw like horses. I don't know. Those nice long faces. They've got like a more dished face, I guess, or their brow. Painting is, yeah, I'm trying. It's kind of hard though because like I don't know if you guys can see what I'm actually doing or not because it seems washed out, but it's gonna get there, I promise. So I'm just trying to see what else I've missed here. Oh, Joe, my dad says that too. He's like, I cannot. We were playing Pictionary once with my dad. It was bad because my mom is an art teacher, so she's extremely artistic. Actually, like a lot of the paintings up on the wall, like behind her, a lot of these paintings up like over yonder, my mom did those. So, and she actually had how long ago was that, Mark, that their garage burned down? So there was like a freak accident fire and it burned a lot of her artwork. So I begged her, I'm like, please, like if you have artwork that you've specifically done, I want it. Like I don't want to give it a chance to kind of get burned up or get forgotten. So this might be more entertaining than mukbang. Are you sure? Because that one that Emma shared with us with a cheese fondue fail was amazing. Like it was probably the best thing that I've ever seen in my entire life. We laughed way too hard over that after our live, not this week, but the week before. It was so funny. And like that was something like when I clicked on it, I was like, this isn't gonna entertain me. And then it was like, Emma was right. So I probably won't. Not gonna knock it, Emma. I'm gonna be real light-handed with this because this is a lot more rich than I thought it was gonna be. But the pastels will probably calm this down, and you'll find too, like with some of these richer colors, like as they dry, they're not as abrasive. So a lot, like when I first started painting, like this would freak me out. Like I would probably try to like hide it right away. But that's a wonderful thing too about painting. Like you can layer or you can add colors that kind of mute. So like if I wanted to kind of mute this, I might throw like a light gray in there and streak it in. And you just do what makes you happy. Happy little bushes, happy little trees. I really wish I had a fro wig, so I could have worn that today. But not today, guys. Maybe next time. I would like to do this again too, but I'm not sure like on what capacity because I'm going back to work next week. I'm really depressed about that. I actually started to think about looking at remote jobs, just because I can do remote jobs. I've done it before, and I'm really unhappy with the university right now. So I don't know. I guess I should be quiet in case like people from the university are watching this. I doubt that though. They're all at work doing their own thing. Not to mention, I work with a lot of tradesmen that I don't think they can use the internet that well. Nor my supervisors. They're just not very savvy in that realm. Oh boy. So this looks heavy and this doesn't. So I'm going to just kind of, if you're like me and you need equilibrium, I like equal, where it doesn't feel. I'm just going to kind of bring those over. Something to kind of pull it. Okay. I don't know. And she's gonna have like a halo of flowers up here, so like I'm not too extremely worried about that. Got another light blue that I'm gonna kind of pull in there because like you guys heard at the beginning, I like to kind of these light colors, especially like for a background. I enjoy playing with them when they're still not dry, because then you get like these really sweet melded blended looks. Well, I mean, you guys could be at home being like, why are you using it? That's cool. That's the good thing about art. Art is all in the eye of the beholder. It's completely objective. I can look at it one way and say it's total crap, and then someone can look at it a different way and say this is the best thing I've ever seen in my life. Art is just, especially like painting or expression in this way, I've always found it to be just welcoming and easy for everybody, because it doesn't have to be one way. If I wanted this to be abstract, I mean, I could give her one huge eye and one eye be really small. So it just kind of depends like what look you're going for. I like to do neon colored farm animals sometimes, but not this time. So it kind of just depends how I'm feeling. And today we're going for a little realism here, but we'll see how that goes. I've got all my paints behind here. I don't know if you guys can see that. Whole bunch of painting stuff back here. So if you guys see me like coming over here to pick, I've got a whole bunch of paint over there. I'll try to keep my everything up here. Okay. So let's catch up on this. Are you inspired, Emma? That's good. If I can inspire one person or it makes you want to get artsy fartsy, that's great. Have you ever painted on? Yes. Yes. On miniature canvases? Yes. And everybody thinks like it's going to be a lot easier on miniature canvases, and it's not. It was the same for scrimshaw. Somebody would bring me like the size of like literally like my pinky nail and be like, can you put like a ladybug on this? And I want it photorealism. So like and I'm using terms that like you also hear like in tattoo artists, like they do photorealism, and they'd be like, what's that going to be like $10? I'm like, no, because it's going to take me a lot more time. It's a lot more detail oriented. So people think like it'll be a lot easier drawing or painting on something small. But if you're detail oriented like me, or you like photorealism, then don't start out. Start out big. Start out really big where you can make like those tiny details really pop because it's a bigger canvas. You're not limiting yourself to a very small area of medium. You've got me singing. You're welcome, Emma. You're welcome. I'm glad that I'm giving you some inspiration too, because I can't wait to see your carving, your spoon carving. That it's got me super interested. You've never tried them before. They're fun. Like really they are. Or yeah. Yeah, but I was worried about copyrights, honestly. Like I have to get with Mallory over at Quebec Homestead. Like, how do you figure out what music you can play in the background that's not going to get you like a copyright strike at some point down the road? If you don't want to use like the miniature canvases, you can always get at Hobby Lobby or Joann's or Michael's or whatever is near you. I sometimes like to get like the wood plaques and just like go crazy on those. And Mark did. See, Mark's gotten artistic, and because we're my crafter, like it's all at my fingertips. I'll show you what Mark made me. He got all artistic with it. Woo! Oopsie daisy, is that on the wall? Yeah, it's on the wall. So, Mark knows like I am weird and like skulls. So like I have a llama skull over there too. I'm in the process of painting, and I know you guys liked Gunther, but I have his skull also in the barn, and I need to cure. But Mark, this isn't one that we've harvested, but like he knows I like skulls, but I like really bright colors. So like he spray painted this, and like this is doing it no justice. This is like so neon hot pink, like it burns your eyes. But he's done a lot of splattering on there, so yeah. You guys seen like those buffalo skulls that they like do in turquoise and like all kinds of really metallic, beautiful paints. I've got a couple of large skulls. And like the places like so stupid and so weird. But like when we go to the rendezvous, people have like buffalo skulls, horse skulls, they'll have all kinds of skulls. And I'm just like, ooh, I want to do like burning on that because like you can burn images in. I got a wood burner that I was hoping to at some point show you guys, but not really quite there yet because my proficiency is just not that good. What paint type was it that we had trouble sticking to the canvas? Tempera. This is so stupid. We were doing a painting class at my church that I was holding. So like I'd let them vote on the picture. So I was painting it at home so like I could actually walk them through it. It was just a picture I found online. So I was painting it the night before, and I had bought a lot of tempera paint without thinking. And I used these stretch canvases. Tempera paint will peel right off of these canvases. If you mix in acrylic with your tempera paint, it won't do that because we were like on. That was awful, Mark. I'm so glad you brought that up because I was actually thinking about this before we started our live. But if you're going to be doing paintings like this, don't use tempera paint. Tempera paint will come in like huge, like even bigger than like these. And they come in a lot of like the primary colors, like along with like some purples or greens. And for the class, I'm like, these are perfect because this is bulk color. And I want to be able to offer as much paint. Like I don't want someone to go skimpy on their paint because I, who am holding the class, did not provide enough paint. But I didn't think about the way that tempera works and how it's more like water-based and how it was going to react to being on a stretch canvas like this. I got home to pack everything up from after work to go do this class, and the painting from the night before was just peeling. It was coming off in just sheets. And I've never been so close to like crying and like rage canceling a class because I was already really stressed just because people weren't like telling me if they were going to be there or not. They were telling me that day, and I'm like, I have to go buy more stuff now for the class because I wasn't going to turn anybody away. If they want to learn, I'm all for it to teach them how to do things. So on the way down there, we weren't going to pass any crafting stores. Luckily, we stopped at like a home improvement store, like a local one, and they had a couple bottles of acrylic paint that I was like before everybody got there, was like madly mixing things up because I was trying to prepare their paint palettes for them with the paint they would need. And luckily, they had just enough acrylic that I could kind of dash it in, that it was successful and no paint peeled, but that was awful. So if you're going to do anything like that on a stretch canvas, don't use tempura paint. It was, Mark, I can't believe you brought that up, because like that was horrific. I've never been so close to like crying and rage canceling anything that I had kind of already told somebody, like, oh yeah, I'm going to do this for you guys free of charge, and I'm just going to, because it was our church and we're very involved with our church, so we were having this, and that was just so stressful. And I felt that because like it affected me like at class, because there was so much stress. Like I wasn't my normal, like, this is so much fun and like I love art and you should love art too. I was more like, let's just get this done, because I've had way too much stress in the last 24 hours over this than I should have. I would like to do it again, but you know, COVID and everything kind of screws it all up. So I'm going to go ahead and add some white up here into her ears, because the inside tops of her ears are like a whitish, brownish color. So I don't want to give her like stark white, but I don't want to give her like dark either. That should do it. So just the inside of her ears are very, very fluffy. So I'm just going to kind of layer it all the way up. I should give you guys the picture, but you know, if I ever do this again, then I'll be better set up for it. This is kind of more of like a spur of the moment. We're in quarantine and I've got nothing better to do, and I want to paint. I want to spend time with my YouTube peoples. And Emma, you feel free to give me like a warning when you're getting ready to start yours, in case I get kind of caught up, because we will probably just call it quits when you start, because I want to go over to your life too. But I think we'll be, I don't think we're going to have any scheduling issues. Tried to make sure to do it. And this will kind of teach me to just kind of shut up and paint instead of stop and talk. Because I like to think that I can multitask, but sometimes things prove to me that I'm not. I love photorealism. My favorite was surrealism. Yes. Especially like when we, so it was kind of dumb. I didn't do, like I said earlier, like I only went to the art classes like my freshman year, and it was like AP art. So like they had to look at your work before you could take that class in high school, because we had a lot of classes like that were like advanced AP or advanced placement, and she never once went over like that stuff in that class. And I'm like, this is like the perfect time, like as freshmen, to really like show all of these different types of art that you can kind of branch off into. Like she was more focused on like shadowing and like just grading things out, and that's probably like why we didn't push, because I'm like, just do it, you know, just like show me all these artists, let me pull my inspiration and let me go. And as I'm working, like, hey, why don't we try this technique? It might help you, it might improve the quality of your work. But we did not see eye to eye, and that's fine. I've had plenty of people in my life that I don't see eye to eye with, and we coexisted just fine. Okay, so then she's got this turned away, and she's got some fluffers all the way up in here. Guys, if you're still in here, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. I'm sorry. I hate like shaming or like asking for you guys to give us a thumbs up, but it helps me out a whole lot. But it was weird, to go back to your question or your statement, Emma, because I just get trash brain sometimes when I'm doing this. In Spanish class, that's where like we went over like Salvador Dali and like all of the different like Spanish, like Frida Kahlo, like she is just bam, like top. Just I love her artwork. I love looking at it and like learning about her background and her life and what she went through, and then finding like symbolism and all kinds of different things like hidden throughout her paintings that had all kinds of different meanings. Though it's like if you didn't know her background, or you didn't know like what she went through like as a young woman or as a young artist all the way up until like the time she passed away, like you would never get what was going on in her art. But it was always so interesting. It was just soaked with like symbolism and hidden meanings and subliminal messaging. Like I just loved it. I just loved it so much. But it was like Spanish class, and I got that, but I'm like, okay, art teacher, can you come in here and sit? Because this is some of the stuff that I think you should be teaching. But maybe, I don't know. It was just high school. I guess I shouldn't be so. That's probably me being snobby because my mom was an art teacher. So I think she held that against me too. The things I wish I would have done like in high school art wise though, I wish I would have done like ceramics class. Like I was so focused on getting like all of my APs or any like classes that could go with college credits. I was really driven in that way in school. So like I didn't waste like a whole lot of time with like ceramics or different crafts or jewelry or and I now looking back I'm like, who needed the trigonometry? I should have taken ceramics and jewelry making class. You know, but you live and learn. I'm sure I can take classes now. That's one of the good perks, like working at the university that I do like. I do have the ability to take those classes free of charge, but it's just the free time thing. Like they have a metal sculpting class where they like use welders and stuff. And I'm like, I really want to do that, but I'd have to do it on my own time because I've already talked to my supervisors. Like, well, it's not really related to your current job, so like we really couldn't endorse you taking time during the day to take those classes, and all the classes I want are like day classes, so or like our classes that you need to be in there to do them hands-on, like the art. You can't really do a whole lot of art like over the internet, or can you? Is that what we're doing right now? So I'm going to go ahead and start on her mane a little bit just so it has time to dry out before I start with this halo. Oh, I'm not a fan of, yeah, Sonny's not a fan of tempera paint. It's tough. Like, it just doesn't want to stick. You almost have to doctor it too much, and I'm like, I see why you're so cheap now. I see why you come in bulk bottles. This is my oldest paints on worn kitchen table because she's not going to ruin it. Yeah, ours has a fair amount of paint on it that it probably shouldn't at its point in its life, but it does. It's fairly new, but they're memories, man. You can ask Mark where he's working at right now, like where that little island is, like around or like a half wall. There's all kinds of acrylic paint splattered. Like even from the video you guys are going to see later today, like there's new blue splatter all over my walls in there. And I'm like, I don't care because this is my house and like it's lived in and those are memories. Like some of the splatters are from Joe where we were just like doing splatter work on things. And it was just, I don't want her to overvalue like those material things to like stunt her creativity because I'm like those can be replaced. We can clean those, and trust me, all the paint splotches that are on the wall from that I could easily have cleaned, but I'm just like, no, I like the reminder, like knowing that we've created art here. But that's just me. Some people do not operate like that, and that's totally cool. Whatever you guys do in your household, that's fine. But for me, I'm like, no, I'm not going to be that way. I'm not going to kill the creativity because I want to have a nice table or I want to have like a seamless house, which is not going to happen anyways because we live here, guys, and we have livestock. So I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that live with livestock and have an immaculate house and would probably put me to shame, which is totally fine. Chesapeake Homestead, how are you? What are you doing on this fine Friday afternoon? We are painting a donkey. Not very well, and I'm not sure how well you guys can see it or if like I need to do anything, but Chesapeake Homestead says good afternoon all. So this is awesome. Thank you. I want to paint. I don't want to clean up my toddlers too. You should, and I'm so with that because I don't know. I've seen too many people that are so like they get so bent out of shape when anything goes wrong or it's just not perfect or prim, and it's just like I live here and like I feel like there should be signs that somebody lives there or that children have grown up there or that an artist has lived there or someone that worked really hard and every once in a while tracked in some mud on the carpet. It is what it is. It's all replaceable. If I get sick of it, I can just paint over it. It's not a big deal. I know some people, like they don't operate like that. And like I said, to each their own, whatever makes them the happiest. You do you, boo. I'm going to go ahead and start to outline her ears. And surprisingly for this, because her hair is so fluffy, like this has been one of those paintings where it's been nice because I haven't had to switch out my brush And I'm really bad. Like I've used this brush in white, black, brown, gray, and I kind of just make a mess with it. But I think I don't know. Like I like the warm, the washed out tones because I mean I look at her and I see all kinds of different colors on her, so I don't feel like I'm doing her a huge injustice or anything like that. Oh, thanks, Emma. Your focus in college was sculpting in clay. Emma, I love that. My mom did some clay sculpting and like her stuff was so amazing, but I don't know, there's something about the 3D sculpting of something and like just painting like in a 1D type way. I don't know if I could do it. I don't know if I could do it. You know, I think the only thing like I've done clay because I'm in my craft room and I can literally like made a sleeping dinosaur. I don't know if you guys can see it. It's terrible, but it is a sleeping dinosaur. Yeah. Joe and I sometimes will like go to Hobby Lobby and buy like the molding clay and just have fun with it. But I just made a sleeping dinosaur. He's not painted yet or anything. He's been unpainted for 2 years. One day I will become inspired and he will be painted. Or she, I haven't decided where it is yet. It was like our motto, don't go chasing clean carpet. Yes, exactly. Mark's exactly right. And thank God, because my housekeeping style does not go chasing clean carpets. I'm lucky if my clothes are clean most of the time. So unless I'm going to work, then because I work at a university and people are like there, I try to make sure like I'm putting my best foot forward, you know, trying to succeed and all that good stuff. Sleepy T-Rex, that's right. Sleepy T-Rex. So Emma, you're doing spoon carving. What else do you do? Do you do any other types of art or any other types of carving that we don't know about that maybe we will see on lives at some point or like videos? Because if you guys are not familiar with Emma over at Sunny's Place, I say Emma because I know we're buddies. I consider Emma to be a friend. But that's Sunny's Place in the chat. If you guys haven't gone over to check her out, please do so because she's got fabulous things going on. She's building a chicken coop and she makes really good nesting boxes. So if you're new to chickens or you need some inspiration to build your own coop, Emma is the place to go. And she's got a really good eye for cinematic shots. Like her Instagram is fantastic. I love her Instagram posts every day, so go follow her there too. And do you have a Facebook page, Emma? I'm pretty sure you have a Facebook page, but I can't remember. I'm just going to send them to all of your stuff. Hey, Quebec Homestead, how are you? It's good to see you in here. How did your premiere go last night? I meant to go to it, but then like animals and craziness, it just didn't work out. So I plan to replay it later on today. But it looks so beautiful. Like the trailer that you had for it was just so interesting. I pull a lot of inspiration from Miss Mallory over at Quebec Homestead, even though I totally lurk on your page and on your channel all the time and like watch but don't interact because I'm kind of weird that way. But you also are another one I think has a very good eye for like the cinematic shots and giving people like that artistic point of view. So I mean, like when you're, I think I've said it in one of my lives before, like I struggle trying to figure out how to make shoveling crap artistic and how to make it look from a different point of view, like not as terrible a job as it is, but there's just some jobs on a farm or a homestead that just they're not that fun. That's okay. Trying to look to see what else we need to do here to start layering her. She is just a lot darker than what I'm giving her props for being on here. So we're gonna just, I'm sloshing paint on my palette. So you guys see like it just, they all started out clean in their own little homes. Now they're all together and going on here a little bit differently. I've got that brush saturated, so I'm not getting that fluffy feel for the fur that equines and donkeys and everything else get in the winter. Like Mallory's beautiful horse has like all those beautiful fluffy fur. Mallory, were you getting crap on TikTok for your horses not having blankets? Do they not know that like when your horses came in with like all that snow on their backs, that means like they're probably super warm? It's when they don't have the snow caking on their backs where it's like, that's when you worry. But if they've got snow caked on their backs, I'm like, good, your body's insulating the way it should. But that's just me. I had someone pull over and try to yell at me because my dog was out in sub-zero temperatures, and I'm like, she's half great peer. Trust me, if she wanted in, I'd let her in. She does not want to come in. Just gonna pull that dark, pull a little bit darker on her cap, because this cap that she has on her head sticks out quite a bit more. So I need to get, I'm gonna actually use a slimmer paintbrush to kind of get some slim feelings through this. Because they have guard hairs too. A lot of animals, when they grow up that thick woolly fur for the winters, even though our winters are nothing like Mallory, or I don't think our winters are even as bad or as cold as yours, Emma, here in Indiana. I mean, we're getting to negatives tomorrow and Saturday, but you guys probably get that a lot more than we do. Hi, Spanish Homestead. How are you? The cinematic shots comes with practice. If you look at my old, well, Mallory, I'm sure that your old stuff does not, but I think we're all our own worst critics too. I watched one of my first videos the other day, and I made Mark watch. I'm like, look how stupid I'm acting. Like I can't talk. I don't articulate. I'm not looking at the right place on my camera, but that's fine. Oh, Mark's taking care of our baby. And so anybody that's like new in the chat, Mark over there, that's my husband. He's just he's working. And that's why I'm in my craft room. Usually I will live stream from like our kitchen table, but that's also his work area. So just kind of staying out of the way for him, so he can kind of do his own thing, make that money without me getting in the way. I keep telling him, like, work hard and become a millionaire. So I don't have to work no more. I just want to play with my goats and my chickens and my donkeys and grow my own food. Is that really so wrong? Isn't that what we're all striving for? I don't really care what goes on in the world. I just want to hug my goats. This is I've worked. Patty says I've worked in several mediums: oil, watercolor, encaustic, sculpting, calligraphy, artist past. So I've never played with watercolors. Like when I was little, when they came in like those packs that you had, like the coloring books to go with, I played with watercolors then. But as an adult, with I'd like to think a little bit more of a skill set artistically. I have not played with that, but I draw a lot of inspiration from it. So maybe one of these days I'll take a plunge. Patty, do a live doing watercolor, because I'll be there and I will be taking notes the whole time. So Mallory said, yeah, I get so much crap on TikTok. That's one of the reasons why I decided to sleep outside with the horses. Good for you, girl. I love how people that have no idea whatsoever, always the first person to put like their 2 cents out there. He is taking care of our funky bunch of bunnies. He sure is. So Spanish Homestead, I'm good. I can never complain about a winter, the coldest it gets here. So you're in Celsius. We do Fahrenheit here. Who else does Celsius out there? How much is that in Fahrenheit? Well, thank you, Mallory. We're trying to get somewhere with it, but I like to talk, and I like to spend time with people in my chat. So it's kind of tough. We've been at this for an hour and a half, and I should be a lot further, but I'm not. Everyone is so artistic and creative. I'm just over here like, I like food. Hey, you may be the next Gordon Ramsay. You can get artistic with food, Kate. Have you ever made like mashed potato sculptures, Kate? I think we should try that. Maybe we could do that. Maybe that's the next collaboration, like artistically, but with food, and see what they come up with. Has anybody ever watched like Netflix Nailed It? Like my daughter and I love that. We love it so much. It makes me feel better in a weird, sick way, even though I'm not like that much better at baking than they are. Hey there, Michelle. How are you? No worries about being late. We're still here just jawing away. 44.5. Thank you, Kate. I do appreciate that. Yeah, I'd like 44. Like today, it's one of those brutal, it's where the air hurts your face type days. But like I said, we're getting ready to go down into the negatives. So, and we're drawing blood this weekend too. I picked the best weekend to do blood panels on my goats. I picked days where I will not be able to physically feel my hands while wielding a needle into a jugular vein. So, Patty says, I'm not that good at watercolor. Trust me. I also do not have a place to create in, sadly. Creative life on. I know how that goes, Patty. But we all go through seasons like that, and soon you probably will. like quarantine's what's got me here painting today, just because like I'm sick of being in my house, and it's with it being cold outside too. There's a lot to be done, but none of it is like something that has to be done. And I'm really bad for chores like that. I wait till they have to be done, and then I try to also film artistically. I love food art. I make art in my ice cream. DK, there you go. You're artistic. That does take some artistic abilities. Trust me. Or like the baristas that do like all the different designs in the coffee. I'm like, how? That's a medium I wouldn't know what to do with. Yes, we love Nail It too. Isn't it great? Like I don't know. I love Wes when she's like, Wes. That poor man. He's probably like, shut up, woman. But that's okay. She says, I have to go hop in the bath to reduce some pain. I hope that you start feeling better, Mallory. I'm hoping that you're healing up fast. I know that weather's got to be so tough on your poor hands. They're supposed to be in the negatives next week. I know. And I was just telling Mark, because we were looking at videos from like a week, because we've already got past the year. So I've just now started to go back and pull some of my film from YouTube back to keep in storage, because I didn't start out the right way like you should in YouTube. I was not very like, I didn't do research. I wasn't prepared. I didn't keep any of like my film. So I'm pulling a lot of it from YouTube, which is going to be at a lot lower quality. But it was kind of weird because like a year ago I was doing like my seed hauls, which I haven't done that yet. I was getting ready to start seeds. I'm not prepared for that yet, but we really need to do it. So yes, Chef's Table and shows like that. I just introduced Joe to MasterChef with Gordon Ramsay because I love Gordon Ramsay, but she's been binging on that. 34 here today. I'm like, come on, girls, have your face. They won't. It's dough code. You know that, Michelle. Dough and you code, I'm sure, are all on the same wavelength. I'm sure mine will all cut because I'm kidding in late March through like early May, mid-May, and I know they'll all wait till like we're in the middle of like tornado warnings or downpours or thunderstorms. It'll be crazy. Let me see what else I've got here. I also design with plants, mixed containers, lots of color. So do you do a lot with succulents though, Patty? Because I've seen people do some wonderful things with succulents, but I don't like succulents. Even though like I know it takes a lot to kill them, there's something about them where I'm just kind of like, I don't really want to work with them. Talk later, probably some, yes. Thank you for stopping in, Mallory. I do appreciate it. It was really nice seeing you here. You feel better, girl. You had a set of twins so far today. So what is your male to female? Because I know you're doing goats and lambs. So then that would be ewes to rams and then does to bucks. So what's your ratio? Is anybody winning? I know one year we had like 13 bucks and 1 doe born. I was so angry. That was the year I was looking to retain too. So I'm like, oh, that makes total sense that you guys would just only have the gentlemen that I cannot keep here. She says, I have done some pretty cool stuff. See, I think, and they're beautiful. Every time I see it, it's beautiful. But I'm just like, I don't know what it is with me. They look beautiful and people do beautiful things with them. But then I don't know, there's just something about them. I'm really bad for buying like a lot of annuals and then struggling to keep them all watered, like in my containers. Because a lot of like my container gardens are not edible. They're for me to look at. Or complain that they need so much water in the middle of July to keep them looking like somewhat decent. But we try to keep them. I'm just not that good at it, and that's okay. I have to come to grips that I just can't rock everything, or even some things. I mean, okay. So I'm actually going to work on her wreath because I'm going to just drag my finger. She's pretty dry up here, and I don't know what I'm doing down here yet. I don't feel good on the bottom part of her face. I just feel like my shadowing there's something going on here. And it may be because I've got like a really rich, like light coffee thing going on here, mocha, and then I've got some really dark muted tones like all the way around. I don't know. Maybe if I can just, cool. That's a good thing with like layering your colors though. You can just, when you start seeing something like that come up where it's just not looking right, it's not too terrible to kind of go through with like a darker or like a clashing color and kind of just melt it in. I don't know. I think she's coming along. I think I've got her face too long. But that's a good thing about animals. Even if their face, and especially like with donkeys and horses, why the long face? So that's okay. Which I can probably do things to it to kind of pull that up too, but that's me just being super critical. Which we all know Bob Ross would not be critical. So Spanish, I had the pleasure to train under Gordon. I think, did you mention this in our live on Wednesday when I did an apprenticeship when I left school? It was one of my highest moments to spend my 18th birthday working with him. Was he as mean? Was he as mean as like he comes off as? Because sometimes like with, now I've noticed there's a difference between like Hell's Kitchen and Kitchen Nightmares and MasterChef. He is not as like rip roaring in MasterChef. Like he will still like throw them major shade if they've just done like a complete injustice to their ingredients in their plate. But like he seems so intimidating. But was he nice, or was he like he was like kind of like just you dumb bloody donkey, you know? Okay, thank you, Emma. I appreciate that. And I'm going to be trying to wrap this up like within the next 15-20 minutes. Watering is key, and they keep them and keeping them fertilized. And yes, we can't be good at everything. We eventually make peace with what we can and can't do. Life is happier when we. It is. That's true. That's true to just to accept when you're good at something when you're just not as good at it as you would hope to be. That is so cool, though, Spanish Homestead. Like, but I'm interested to hear your response if he was mean. I bet he's not. I'm sure it's like all things, or that's just like for the cameras, but. Trying to bring in some darker feel to kind of get me some outlines going, and to kind of pull this. I have to actually pull this out if I want to correct that. This is where her nostril is. So where her nostril is over here too. I appreciate you guys hanging out too, because I couldn't imagine this being like that interesting to watch someone paint. But I really enjoyed having the conversations with you guys while I'm doing this. Mark's probably happy to have me out of his workspace too. Keep me confined to my craft room. He says, no, it is all for TV. If you do something wrong, you got out of the way, but nothing like TV. Yeah, that makes sense. Did you do anything wrong? Like, or did you have like a shining moment where he was like, this chicken is cooked to perfection, you know? Drama for the camera sells the show. Gordon seems genuinely kind-hearted. He really does, and I prefer to watch him on MasterChef, or like just for that reason. He just seems like more down to earth and more encouraging. And but then you do have like those abrasive people that I think see him on those other shows. They come out with really strong personalities too. Where I'm just like, don't do that. You won't like him when he's angry. Have you not watched like what Hell's Kitchen? Have you not watched that? He's going to eat you for breakfast. But I don't know. Good thing I'm wearing black because I've actually gotten a lot of paint on my sleeves. Okay, I think I've done about as much as I can do on this part. Try and give her just a little bit of depth right there. Just kind of pull that out. What is your guys' guilty pleasure, like that you watch religiously, but like people wouldn't think that you watch it? Mark, what do we have as a guilty pleasure that we watch a lot of? I watched all of the Handmaid's Tale, which that kind of scares me a lot. So what was the best advice or dish you learned from him? Yes, good question, Mark. Good question for Spanish Homestead. All right, y'all. let me see here. So she's got like a dark patch, just kind of like where her hair parts. Here in the middle of her face. And it runs all the way down. Trying to think like what I watch that I would just not, usually people probably wouldn't know that I like to watch. My Little Pony. I'll come right out with it. My daughter, when she loved watching like My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic, I looked as much forward to new episodes as she did. And then when we got Hulu like a month ago, season 9 was out there, which was the final season, and we binged that. Once we found that, we were both like, what is Twilight Sparkle going to do? I'm sure Mark was like, much to Mark's chagrin, because everything is like a song about how to solve the world's problems with friendship. Yeah, my daughter and I really like watching that. I don't know if Joe will even, because she's starting to get to that phase of being like a preteen. So Joe, sorry, it cat's out of the bag. We like watching My Little Pony, or we watched it together last week. We binged it. Actually, for today's video, I had to mute a good portion of like some of the painting, like fast forwards, because My Little Pony is in the background. And it was very distracting because it was like, My Little Pony. Like it was the theme song. And you would hear it, you're my very best friend all the time. So that is my guilty pleasure. And it's just because like I grew up with My Little Pony like as a kid. And so when Joe was like little and decided that she liked the idea of My Little Pony and she wanted to watch it, like, oh yeah. I have My Little Pony things in here. That's how weird we're getting. But that's okay. And there are bronies, so like I can't even say like I'm the worst out there. There are people out there that are bronies and they really into it, so that's the more you know. Adrian! Ashley B. Ross, do you like that? Marky Mark's in here. And Chesapeake Holmes says, I love Law and Order, Yellowstone, yes. Mandalorian, yes. Star Trek, yes. This Is Us. I have not tried that, but I'm a crier, and I don't like to cry, so that's probably why I've stayed away from that. For mindless TV guilty pleasures, I watch Bravo, Below Deck, Southern Charm, Real Housewives. Real Housewives can really suck you in. I know. I've Wife Swap. Back in the day when Wife Swap used to happen, like I loved watching that, and that's probably not right, but I just thought it was hilarious. How are your tiny How are your tiny whiteys referencing something to do with Marky Mark and his modeling days? Mark, answer the question. Tell her how your tiny whiteys are. He's not a tiny whiteys man. Yeah, I know. Real Housewives is so bad. All Creatures Great and Small, all Bravo, and Call the Midwife is so good, Michelle. It's so good, and I cry so much. Like when they have like tough births and like it comes out okay, I'm always like, I don't know what gets into me. I'm like, I just become a little bit of a spouter. I can't handle it. Or I'm just like, oh, the baby is so healthy and it looks good. So yeah. There's just something about watching new life, like even, and you probably understand that, Michelle, or anybody that's had like livestock that you're breeding. Oh my gosh, like I could still go to tears, like in some, even like it's usually the flawless or the horrific that turn out good. So like I've had some really bad situations while kidding, where like it was cries of like relief because it was over and everybody was okay, and there are others where it's just like the birth was just like so perfect. I just got to watch. I didn't have to intervene. Nothing went wrong. Everything moved along real quickly. And I don't know, that it just still, it gets me. It gets me. I'm sure you guys will. And like last year we had a tough kidding season. So if any of you have watched like some of the kidding videos from last year, especially like my the day I failed as a goat midwife, that one was rough. I still can't go back and revisit that video just because like that was a very raw, such a raw day for me. And that was a hard one to share. So, but Call the Midwife, Michelle, that's a really, really good one. Really, really good one. And we're just tripping through. So Adrian, you just came in. We're just tripping through painting Rennie. And by tripping, because like we usually don't paint. I usually paint like the goats. I don't usually paint the donkeys because the donkeys are new. But they're interesting. Their facial shapes are very different from goats. And I will say horses. I've painted a few horses, so. But I think Rennie's turning out really good. She's got like just this one really dark spot here that I'm like trying to mute out a little bit. So I'm just trying to go on it and just give it some cross strokes. Kind of get it to go down. That's as good as it's gonna get, I think. So just pull some tones up in here to calm down that white, and then we're gonna get to the flower halo, the flower hat around her hair, and then we're going to call that quits because I know Emma is going to be starting here in about 20 minutes. I think I can bust out a couple flowers in 20 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and drop these in the water because I am officially done with those brushes. And we will move on to pastels. So what color flowers? Obviously, I'm going to use some pastel pinks, but you guys want like, I don't really feel like a pastel blue would do well on this. Maybe some very, very bright whites with yellow or blue tones in it. Pastel yellow would do good. Just because like we've gotten that this kind of bluish aqua background going on here, and the pastel greenery will obviously be there. But flower crown, I know. So I have a really hard time showing the ugly crying, but I have quite a few videos where there's a lot of ugly crying going on, and I like try to cut it to where it's like not so like, okay, lady, get over it. But and some people just don't get it either, where it's like in the moment. But I feel like it is our responsibility too, like as homesteaders, especially those that are working with livestock and have those losses, because people get like a very romanticized viewpoint. And Mark and I talked about that on Wednesday in our live about the biggest little farm, like how it romanticized a lot of the ideas of like building a farm from scratch and amending soil and doing this, like how everything comes together. I'm like, it doesn't work like that. I think it's super important to show those ugly crying moments, because there's just a lot about homesteading sometimes that's just super ugly. It's super raw. And there are days where I'm just like, why do I put myself through it? And there are other days where I'm like, I would never, ever change my life, my lifestyle, or the experiences that I've had to get me where I'm at. I would never change it. I would never trade it for anything. But other days I wish I could just quit and walk away from it. Okay, thank you. I'm trying to. She's so fluffy. The picture is like a fluffy donkey, so I didn't think pink will look great. Peachish, ooh, I like that Chesapeake Homestead. Yellow, coral, good. I'm glad you have it, because I said I've got coral set over here. Where did you go, coral? So yeah, the romanticized part of homesteading is just, oh yeah. So Patty says, oh, romanticizing farming and homesteading is a viral proportion for viewers. I think it is. And like, I get it, like cute baby chicks hatching and, you know, mama hens brooding, babies nursing from their mothers, being born. But they're just, you know, if you have livestock, you have dead stock. Life and death coexist and they balance one another. So like I've said it in a lot of my videos, I'll have kidding seasons where it was just like, I could not have gone wrong. I couldn't have killed off my stock. There was just no way anything bad was going to happen. And if you hear squirts, it's the paint. I'm not farting. That I couldn't do anything wrong. Like nothing went wrong. And then the next season I knew, I'm like, this will be the balance. This will be the counterbalance that keeps me humble and grounded and realizing like it changes like that. And sometimes it's not even with the kidding. Sometimes it's like a month after where like your doe or your lamb or your cow goes down and you're just like, what is going on here? You were healthy just yesterday. But such is life. Life is frail. Life is fleeting. And sometimes people just don't want to be reminded of that either. And I can totally respect that. That's fine. But I'm going to show it. I'm going to show, because I actually had someone at work was like, why would you show that? Like, and she was not being mean, she was being constructive, because she's like, I'm just curious. She's like, because she's like, you're so in real life, and I guess like she said it in real life, like as if like there's a different existence or a different space that we're in, like when we're on YouTube or when we're editing down our videos to show a specific side. She's like, I just don't. She said, I didn't know how you felt about that, or how she worded it was just very peculiar. And she's like, why would you show it though? Like, why would you allow someone to see that side of you? And I'm like, I think that that's what's wrong with society is we don't see that side of people, especially with the internet and like how open people are to share things. We're empowered to share what we want. We're empowered to share the sides and the stories of our lives that we want. And I want to share that because I don't want anybody to ever sit there and say like, well, you've never gone through this, or I want someone to know like with my success, I've made a lot of mistakes and I've had a lot of failures, but it's the difference of letting your failures or your mistakes to become tools instead of end results. And I think if we let them turn into tools, then we're setting ourselves up for success. Failures birth success. Mistakes birth success. And I think sometimes people don't see that. And I think that's why it's important to share those moments where you're ugly crying, or you're like, I just don't want to do this anymore. Why do I even try to grow a garden? I have a black thumb. Some people need to know, though, that even with those seasons, there are seasons that continue. It's never winter forever. It's never spring forever. We go through seasons. And that's my weird, waning poetic thing on homesteading for the day. It's getting me a little emotional, so I'm gonna try to steer away from that a little bit so I don't get all like choked up and weird, because every now and then I have moments like that where Mark's like, okay, calm down. So you've got this. I'm like, I know I've got this. So what? You fart? I do fart a lot. Ask my husband. Apparently more so when I'm asleep at night. And I'm not afraid to share that out on the YouTubes. Because trust me, the next morning he will tell me, or he's like, you're not allowed to eat that ever again before bedtime. Noted. And everybody farts and everybody poops. Happy little farts, happy little poops. Yes, if you have livestock, you have livestock. So when we've got Chesapeake Homestead, says, yes, Ashley, that's been the hardest reality for us to face on this journey, the life and death, and reminding ourselves that this is part of life. It doesn't mean that it isn't for us. Exactly. It's tough. It's tough. And then when someone asks me, like, should I start? I'm like, can you handle death? Can you handle failure? If you can't handle failure, or you don't want to be like emotionally, physically, and spiritually tied to something, like where you cannot walk, and I am like to our homestead and our farm, like I am tied into it. I could never walk away from it, and I accept that, and it doesn't bother me. But if that thought were to bother you, I tell you, like, don't homestead, don't invest in it, because you're just setting yourself up for some heartaches. Best cooked dinner. So, go cook dinner, Spanish Homestead. Thank you so much for joining us. Yes, Adrian's so right. I think most of us want to educate people, and that's a huge freaking part of it. It is. I don't feel like people wear those rose-colored glasses too often, and they don't want to take them off. And sometimes I'm like, you have got to take it off. You have got to see like what's really out here and what's really happening, because you're missing a lot. I mean, like, a lot of my heartache is what makes me appreciate those wins. Like, just the ugly cry is like what makes me appreciate like the tears of joy. So I'm gonna have to stop because I'm getting emotional just thinking about it, which is weird. All my past, I know. I shared one yesterday, Adrian, or 2 days ago for our kidding season last year, and like the first goat, like she jumped into a very small bucket of water and drowned herself, and like it made me cry because it was like I remember finding her, and it was so horrific. Didn't share it on YouTube because I was still new, and we'd had a lot of bad things going on that year, and I'm like, I'm gonna allow that rose-colored glass to stay on just for a second. Nobody ever asks. So if someone had asked what happened to her, automatically would have been like, this is what happened. But we've had freak accidents before, and some things are just going to happen. They're out of your control. I think knowing and being able to release that feeling, because I think that's what hurts a lot of people nowadays. They want to feel like they're still in control, and we're not in control. The weather, we don't control the weather. We like to think we do. We like to think that we can predict it. Wish I got paid to be wrong every day on the weather here in Indiana, but I think if people realize to release that want for control, they'd be so much happier for it. I mean, you can't control who comments on your YouTube videos. You can't comment who leaves, like Miss Adrian takes it so well. Like, she gets a thumbs down on like all of her stuff when all of her stuff is good. And you know it's just a hater. It is just a hater, but that person is struggling for control. And that's the way I look at it when someone gives me a thumb down or gives me like a negative comment. I'm like, you're looking for control in a situation that you're just seeing from the outside. It literally does not affect you if you don't want it to. But if you'd let go of that control, you'd just be a lot happier and you'd be a lot more grown up, and you just keep on scrolling, keep on scrolling. Adrian, was that in your life where we were talking about how that delete button is fantastic when people tick us off on social medias? I think that was your live on Tuesday. So it's important to show for those considering this lifestyle too. Rub the gloss of the dream to prepare them. Yes. Yeah, you have to. You have to, because I think we all start this like with these dreams of like, I'm going to feed my family and it's going to be super rewarding. And then you get those days where it's like, yay, it's raining. And then the rain turns into a flood and destroys your entire in-ground crop for the year because the rain was good, but then you got too much rain, which people don't understand that. Like, some things are good to a certain amount, and then after that, they're detrimental. So then we've got Miss Kate. The problem, though, is that if one person is showing the failures and others don't, then that one person, I agree with you. And I feel like that's why some people don't show it. And when I see people that are showing me their failures, I look more down on people that will show me something on a YouTube video and then dress it up like, oh, it's fine. I'm like, I have a real problem with like goat birth videos when people want you to be hands off. And I've actually seen quite a few where people like the kid will totally present in a dystocia. So dystocia is like when a kid or like a lamb presents wrong, where it's like breech or it's head first or both front legs and the head is bent back. And they're like, oh, I'm just going to let this go. And it's because of their viewership does not want them to, they get mad sometimes when you step in and play God, which I'm like, you're already playing God. These animals were all once wild. We stepped in and domesticated a lot of them. You can't say now to stop playing God. Like the fact that they're domesticated, like they're here. I can't let them, they're my responsibility. I can't just let go and let live. They're my responsibility. They're my income. They're my livelihood. They're my pets. I mean, but if you're going to sit there and dress it up like, oh, it's fine, and we kind of let her go, and I'm like, no, you can't do that. It's your responsibility. Like, you're the steward over that animal. You can't just let them go for the sake, and I will tell anybody that on any of my videos for birthing when they're like, you shouldn't have stepped in. I'm like, but if I not, would I had a video with Ugly crying over a kid that passed and then complications with the doe afterwards, and she also passed, which is a total loss financially, emotionally, in all realms. It's a loss. I'm like, I don't want to have to sit here and regret if I had or if I hadn't. You just got to go with what you're doing. And if someone wants to tell me that I'm uneducated because I'm sharing that, they're the one that's uneducated. They're the one that's not cultured. They're the ones that are wearing the rose-colored glasses. Wow, we're going in a totally different direction. I thought we would go with this, guys. Pooty. No, Adrian, you're just too sweet. Knowing people like you actually makes those thumbs down so worth it. Adrian, stop it. Stop it. Yeah, avoiding drama. Yes, we were talking about avoiding being Switzerland in the world of YouTube. Yes. It's important, though. It's just, I type it all out and say what I want to say, and I feel better, and then I delete it, and I'm like, cool, no drama, and I feel better, too. So, but that's so tough to do, especially, like, if you have a very type A personality, or you have facts, or what you think are facts to back up your argument. That's when I have a really hard time stepping back, because I'm like, I'm going to school you. Like, I'm going to teach you what you need to be taught. But everybody has a different way of doing things, so I often have to bite my tongue. Often have to bite my tongue. But it's still there. See, I've bitten it a lot. It's still there, so. Well, I'm glad that you find it to be a good conversation, Adrienne, because I also feel like I think people guard their successes and like their failures on YouTube a lot too. And I'm not afraid to like tell you guys how I feel about this stuff, because I feel like there have been a lot of situations in my life had somebody shared their input or their point of view, or just been like, hey, buck up, because take the rose-colored glasses off. When I did feel those failures, or I did have those moments where I just was not doing well, or like I was doing something wrong, I probably would have been able to accept it a lot better, and I would have grown from it. Like sometimes when we don't look things like square in the face, we stun ourselves. We stun our own growth, and I don't ever want to stunt my growth. I have done so many things in my life where I'm just like, why in the hell did you do that, Ashley? And if someone had just pulled the rose-colored glasses off me a little quicker, I probably wouldn't have made some of the mistakes that I've made in my life. But we can only go back so far, too. I mean, you live and you learn. I will learn until the day that I die, because Lord knows I'm never going to know all of it. So Patty says, so here is what I have been wondering this year most. What happens to those successful channels when real disaster strikes? Say real drought. What gloss will be applied in circumstance? That's Patty, that's something really big to consider and ponder. I think sometimes you can ride that luck wave all the way until you can't. And I won't name some of the larger channels that I watch that I love them, and I watch them for a reason, because I enjoy their content. I enjoy watching like their lives. But I will tell you, and especially because like I tend to steer more to the side of livestock and animals. When I see someone that is getting like new animals all the time, and the stuff that they're saying is not true, or it's not supported by facts, or it just shows that they haven't done their research, I have a really hard time not calling people out on that, because the livestock that we pull onto our channels, you have a responsibility to do the research before they get there. It's not fair for them to suffer while you figure out how to take care of them. So like donkeys are a perfect example. If someone were to treat a donkey's diet much like they would like a horse, you're going to kill your donkey. They're going to be super unhealthy. They're going to get the fat pads. They're going to go lame. You're shortening their lives, and I know that some people are like, well, they didn't know. I'm like, ignorance is just not a really good excuse for me, because I feel like sometimes ignorance is chosen. If you see an animal that you want to have, or you see droughts in your area where you're setting up your livestock or where you're setting up your gardening, I feel like it is your responsibility to have those things in place to alleviate those effects, or to set yourself, your livestock, your homestead, your gardening, whatever it is that you're pursuing, beekeeping, to set it up for success. And sometimes that means like buckling down and not being impulsive and saying, I'm going to buy this because it is super cute. Donkeys are super cute. But if you put a donkey like on lush grasses, or feed it alfalfa all the time, or feed it grain every single day, you're not doing what you need to be doing for the animal. If you set up a farm or a homestead where you are growing crops or foods that need water all the time, you're setting yourself up for failure. And I feel like if you're going to be a big YouTuber too, you have to be ready to show the failure. And you also have to be ready to be like, yeah, guys, you're right. And I can understand, like, if you have a really large following, it could probably get so negative to have like 200 followers all tell you, 200,000 followers tell you, hey, you suck at what you're doing, you should have researched. But then for me, like, if I had 200,000 people commenting that I had done something wrong, odds are I probably did something wrong, or they wouldn't all be saying that. So I don't know, that's probably like a little bit off, but you're right, Patty. I feel like they do apply a lot of gloss, and for people that don't live the lifestyle, they'll just accept that. they won't go back and look into it. Whereas people that actually live the lifestyle or go through those specific hardships will be like, why are you not showing this? Why are you not being real? I mean, show us your crops dead. Show us show me the numbers. Show me the numbers of what you invested on your homestead for that crop, and then a drought came through. I want to know the numbers. I want to feel the loss because I want to learn. I think it's important for us to show our failures so people can learn from our mistakes. And as awful as I think like YouTube can be sometimes, or just social media in general can be sometimes, it can also be a huge learning tool if people use it or allow it to be applied to others in a constructive way. And I don't know. I just think that gets lost on people sometimes. I get lost on it sometimes. Like I'm getting lost on this the flower crown that I'm attempting to make here. So I'm just laying base colors for my flower crowns, and I'll probably go through with darker tones and whites. And I'll usually like take my paintbrush and dip it half and half, part of it in white and part of it in the color that I want, and just start to do the swirls. Especially like for roses, because that seems like that gives you the illusion of light hitting a petal and giving you the softness and giving you the curve, drastically pulling it back towards the artistic part of it. All right, Emma, I will wrap it up here soon. Okay, so she says Patty says there are times that nothing a man can do that can help avoid disasters was what I was considering. Like you, I like the numbers, the reality of what it takes. I agree, and that's why I did not like the Biggest Little Farm. I know a lot of people liked that documentary. I don't know, maybe it was jealousy. I can be honest, maybe it was jealousy in watching someone take something so depleted and turn it into something like great. Like it was beautiful. That property was beautiful. But I'm always like, you're also over romanticizing like the numbers. The fact that you had volunteers that gave their time, where most of us are digging it out with our own bare hands out of nothing and trying to make it something. I feel like people see that and they think just anybody can do it, and they can't. So there has to be education behind it, preparation, numbers. I mean, anybody who jumps into something without research, I'm like, you are asking for failure. And failure is a learning tool. I will say it all the time. Failures are not the end experience. They're a tool for the next one. But sometimes you can have failures that are just so tough. Like it totally pushes people out of having experiences that could have been a lot more enjoyable and they could have learned from, or could have been something super successful. All right, Al. So this documentary, Chesapeake Homestead, was called like The Biggest Little Farm. And it was about a couple that moved up. And you see a lot of like the storyline here on YouTube right now, where people are leaving their dwelling in cities or suburban areas, and they're attempting to live their lives as self-sufficient as they can. They're picking up homesteading, which is fantastic. Like having control over your own food sources and learning where your food comes from and feeling the connections that we feel being stewards of livestock, growing our own food, improving our land. Because literally, like homesteading, some people are like, you're just taking from land. I'm like, I'm actually improving my land. I'm amending my soil. It's richer, it's better, my animals eat better, I eat better, I feel better, I have less stress because of it. They just they glossed over a lot of things. Like so in part of this documentary, they kept losing their livestock to coyotes and kept preaching about coexisting, which I get, you should coexist. I don't actively go out and seek to harm predators. If I catch a predator in with my goats or my chickens, I am the steward of my livestock. I will protect them with whatever force is required. But they were like, we can't make money off of our eggs because like the coyote keeps killing our eggs, or killing our laying hens, but they wouldn't do anything about it. And then they got to the point where they were like shooing all of these coyotes away, and then the gophers became an issue in their orchards. And they were caught like in between, like, well, we need the coyotes to control the gophers in our orchards because they're harming the trees. But it's like enclosures are important for chickens, closing them up every night. If you're going to do like free ranging, like even Justin Rhodes does that when he does his free range and has his chicken wagon or his chicken tractor, however he moves it around, they all got put up at night, and they just weren't doing that. I'm like, you're setting yourself up for losses and then acting like they're not losses. But for people that are really invested in homesteading, those are losses. I fed the chickens. I paid for the ground. The chickens are free ranging. In the wintertime, I'm paying for their food because there's nothing for them to free range. So in that documentary, I got a little salty. Like, I'm not going to lie. I got a little salty because I'm like, this is totally glossing over like what the struggle is, because they had people coming in and volunteering. I'm like, most of us do not, but they were in California. And that I hate to, I'm not trying to be like, oh, California, they're all out there doing their own thing, or they don't have a real grasp on it. But the people were reaching out because they wanted that lifestyle, so they were willing to volunteer. Whereas most of us, we can't afford to. I mean, I live in rural East Central Indiana. I cannot get volunteers out here to help me with it because everybody's living the lifestyle. So like you could tell they were getting people that wanted to be a part of that lifestyle, but like were willing to give their free time. And I'm like, I have to work a full-time job on top of everything to keep this going. So I just thought it was kind of like, it was over romanticized. The idea was beautiful. The cinematic effect was beautiful. The property was beautiful. It was amazing what they did with it. It really was. But there was just a lot to it where I'm like, and now see, now everybody's going to think they can go out and buy like this ground that's so depleted, nothing will grow on it. And that they're going to get like top of the line filtration systems and composting systems and irrigation systems, and it's all going to be great. And they'll just put out an ad on Craigslist for volunteers. It's just, it does not work that way. It was a beautiful idea. Like I said, very cinematic. The property in a heartbeat would have bought that if I had been millions and millions of dollars and it were in California. But it just was one of those things where I'm like, well, I guess we're just going to put on those rose-colored glasses again. What do you guys think of this crown so far? They just look like blobs right now, but we're going to get there. Gotta go. Hi. All right. Bye, Miss Patty. Bye-bye. Thank you for coming in and talking with me. I appreciated it. So now we've got Kate here. She says, I watched one on why you should raise chickens and rabbits together and how you'll make tons of money doing it. And it made me so mad. It was so cool. But, and see, that's sad though, because then people are going to like, people that see that and buy into it are going to go and learn through these failures. And then they're going to think they're the dumb ones. And they won't realize that that's misinformation because people don't, and some people don't. Some people don't believe in research anymore, but I'm a big proponent with, hey, if you're going to kind of lock your life savings into this, or you're going to be wanting to be any ounce of successful, you will be doing your research. But, I mean, well, look at 2020. That's a perfect example of how something, I won't call the pandemic small. I won't call COVID small. I won't, because I know it's affected a lot of people. But it shows how delicate our food system was and how quickly something like that could push everybody to not trusting the government or not trusting providers or processors to make sure that those foods and goods are on our grocery store shelves, where everybody was super comfortable with it and expected them to be. I feel like that was a huge wake-up call for some people. And some people jumped way too fast. They didn't do their research, but it was fear. It was like buying into a lifestyle because of fear. And fear is never a really good motivator either to make big life changes. I mean, now if you're running for your life or something bad is happening in your country, yeah, fear can be a big motivator because it's that or death. It's survival or death. Where here it was like patience. Do not panic. It is okay. All in good time. But I think it was a big wake-up call. And people ate that misinformation like they were Happy Meals. Like, really, they did, because they were scared. So I do see a lot of people trying to do the leave and start anew, but then I also see them being overly apologetic for things not going perfect. You bring a perfect point, Chesapeake Homestead. You bring a perfect point. And I don't think you should have to apologize. I feel like as long as you can dress that up and show your learning curve and why it was your learning curve or why things were done a specific way, I don't think there's any apology needed. I think that people need to see other people failing. And it's not because I want people to celebrate failure. I think it's good to recognize failure and say, okay, here are the parts that were good, and here are the parts that made them fail. And how can we adjust those parts that made them fail to set myself up in my specific situation and my experiences up for success? But that's really tough. That's really tough to do. I get so upset when people apologize for it too, because I'm like, you're a human. Nobody's perfect. No one is perfect. Even in perfect circumstances, a human can screw it up. An untrained animal can screw it up. An unforeseen snowstorm, thunderstorm, tornado can screw it up. Things happen all the time. Yeah, it is hard. It 100%. And I think it's good that they realize, like, when you build up that fast, there are growing pains. We face that, like, just as human beings growing. There are growing pains, and it's a sign that something's changing. And sometimes it's good change, and sometimes it's not a good change. I think the real wisdom lies in people that can look at it and say, this was a good change, and I'm glad that I went through the growing pains because I'm happy with where I'm at. And there are other people like, I needed to pace myself because I bit off way more than I could chew. Because I saw so many people trying to take advantage of that fear in the local animal swap groups I'm in, selling sick or poor quality animals for high dollars just because they were in demand. Kate, girl, you're reading my mind, because that happened like everywhere. Like we've said it in our lives before. We had people that were like, well, can I get a dairy goat? You got a goat milk? I'm just gonna keep it in my shed, and I'll milk it like every other day. Like, no and no. And then not wanting to take no for an answer when you said, I don't have anything for sale. I had someone call me out for being greedy, that I was hoarding my animals. Like, well, listen here, sweetheart. I bought my animals. I raised my animals. I've invested in my animals. I care for them a lot. Like, I'm not hoarding. That's ownership. I have the right to sell them or not. People, when people get scared, it shows a lot of different colors in the spectrum of a personality, especially for people you think you know, because it wasn't just people that we were unaffiliated with. It was people that we knew too. It was like, you gotta check your, we've been friends forever. What are you talking about? It's a sober reminder that we will all face failure and can get up and keep going. Girl, you're on point with this chat. Well, I'm glad that I am. Like I said, this chat has been a little bit different than most because we've gone in a lot of different areas, which is good because it's letting me paint and it's not making me too worried or scared about doing stuff like this. Because I've usually got Mark, and he's in, like, Mark is like my savior. Like, he keeps me focused. He keeps me on point. He keeps me sharp. And I love him to death. But I think this has been a good chat. It's made me grow a little bit. Though I still want him in here. Mark, are you still in the chat? I'm sure he is. Because he's my moderator, just in case. I get on these tangents and, like, totally veer way away and then can't get back on track. Or if I have, like, a troll that comes in because I'm not looking at my chat. Well, we did have a troll. I don't know if anybody noticed that, like, Wednesday. We had a troll, and we kind of just ignored him and he went away. He didn't get too crazy, but he was, like, right on that precipice where we're like, we need to watch this guy because I don't know what he's going to say next. I don't get trolls either coming into chats and being gross. Kate, when are you going to do another live? I know you're super busy getting ready for your wedding and everything. What are your wedding colors? Tell me that. Okay, so do you have wedding colors, or, like, what flowers are you using and stuff like that? Because I know, like, it's coming up super fast, so I'm sure you're, like, in panic mode trying to get ready. And that's not me trying to make you go into panic mode. I just know, like, wedding planning can be super, super stressful. Like, more stressful than it should be, really. I enjoyed my wedding, though. I tried to make sure to, like, not get too freaked out about it while we were in the moment. You saw the troll, Margie? He was, like, in a military group. Trying to say it was a military group. I was like, oh, okay. Like, whatever, we're just going to kind of clean over you. Bye, Chesapeake Homestead. I'm super glad that you got to come in. Fill train tracks while my sister is she's also running around the house thinking about donkeys. Well, you have fun with that. It was really nice talking with you. Super, super nice. So, Margie, what did you think of the troll? Because Mark and I were like, I don't know if you guys caught the cue either. Like, I was pointing and, like, doing this. I don't think you guys saw that, but, like, I was pointing at it. I was like, no, don't acknowledge that guy. Purplish. That's a good color. Like, is it like a deep purple or a light purple? Thought about trying to do one this weekend, but not sure. I have a lot running around to do. I'm sure you do with a wedding, lady. I really enjoyed your rabbit live because I have to be super honest. Like, I'm not as hands-on with Bun Bun, but he seems super healthy. Like, I always check his eyes and his teeth and stuff, and his claws don't ever seem to really need to be clipped. But he's a Holland Lop. Have you found that with your Holland Lops? They don't really need a whole lot of maintenance? Because I was asking Mark, I'm like, is that normal? Because, like, I feel like we should be doing a lot more with him, but, like, he just seems to be healthy, and I don't want to interrupt him if he's healthy. You know what I mean? Like, if he's got a good thing going, just kind of leave him alone. But maybe that's wrong with me. I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna add some green to her little crown here, and I'm gonna probably add some colors to the middle of these flowers, just to give them some. One of the dogs just flung itself against the door because I heard it shake real loud. I don't know if you guys heard it. My dogs have been doing that because they are used to coming in here with me, and I said, no, not today. They smell really bad, and they fart a lot, so it smells pretty bad. All the purples. Listening while I do my cure. Well, thank you, Michelle. I appreciate that. I'm sorry I got all, like, emotional and weird earlier, but that's just kind of, like, where I went, and I appreciate you guys coming along for the ride. All the purples. I wish I had a hammer. Margie, I love you so much, girl. Hey, maybe we'll make you a mod, and then you can bring the band hammer down on some people. Because, like, I was just, like, we were watching, and I got wrenched. So when you get wrenched, it's like someone's making you a mod. So I was wrenched in a chat last week. Like, it just happened. I just all of a sudden looked down, and my name was blue, and I had a wrench. But they had a troll in their chat, and, like, people are so gross. And I told Mark, I'm like, if this guy says one more thing, because it wasn't, like, abrasive or mean, but he was just kind of getting to that point where I'm like, he's getting ready to cross over into being not nice. And sure enough, he crossed right over. So I was on it, I hit it, but then the person banned him, whoever's live that was. I don't want to bring it up because, like, it was gross. I just people are gross. So I'm just giving, like, white dots for some of these flowers, like in the middle, just kind of give them a little bit of depth. Give them a little pop. I don't even know if you guys can kind of see that on your end. I'm going a lot longer than I thought I would, but I'm just going to kind of let it roll. I'm going to do this and put some greenery on this, and then I'm going to sign off so that we can go over to Emma because she's carving spoons. It's crazy. I've never seen anybody carve a spoon before. So Mark said, yep, still here. I had to plug the phone in since it died. So, like, I haven't had them long enough to know if they have fast-growing nails. I have had rabbits in the past. They will keep their own nails short. Okay, I feel like I've gotten really lucky with him. And he's not, I probably would notice more if he was mean. But, like, he's never bit or, like, scratched me on purpose. So I want to have, at the very least, get my video on dog nails finished up. You've got so much going on, though. You are just a rock star over there getting your stuff out. Like, seriously, I don't know how you're doing all of it at one time right now. Just, I take care of trolls and crochet rocks channel. I am good. Well, Margie, you may get wrenched next time that we're in our chat. Because that was one where I'm like, I don't want you to get raunchy because I don't like that in my chats. So she said, hey, I don't mind watching. She's like, have you and Emma up? That is like a cacophony going on back and forth. But and Emma's awesome. Like, seriously, I love Emma so much. Like, seriously, I do. I've met some really, really good people doing this whole YouTube thing that I didn't expect a community. If you had told me when I first started, like, last January, that I would be doing, like, lives like this, I'd have been like, you need to get off them drugs, dear. But I've got to. Oh, look, guys, look, spam risk caller. I should answer, like Daryl does at Two Family Homestead when they do their lives, but I'm not as savvy as they are. I get redneck when I get irritated, so I don't want you guys to see that. Mark knows, don't you, babe? You get super redneck when I am not feeling it, or when someone's getting on my. I was not nice earlier this week to poor Mark. I was having, like, a mood swing. Poor fella. He's so good to me, though. That's why I'm shouting it out here in front of God and everybody on YouTube. I was not nice to my husband earlier this week. I was moody. And he took it like a champ. He's so nice. All right, I think we're good on the, I don't know, guys, should we, there's something about these flowers that I'm not liking. It's like they're too uniform. They're not really like overlapping. They're not gelling for me, but for like time's sake and because I do want to go over and I want to support Emma, I'm probably just going to roll with it the way that it is and just try to give this a little bit of depth and just, yes, I'm using the same brush, getting a whole medley of colors. So there's just something there that I don't like about it, but that's okay. That's a good thing about painting. If I don't like it later, I can just go back over it. I appreciate you guys being patient with the whole, watch me paint and then listen to me talk and blubber on for 2 hours, 2.5 hours now. Who'd have thought? Mark's like, I could have thought because he knows I can jabber on and on and on forever. Yeah, I think our car warranty has expired. That is why I married that man, because he's hilarious. He's like, I never answer the phone unless they are on my call list. I don't either. And luckily, like now with our cell phones, they'll be like spam risk or fraud. I love the ones when they're telling me they're like from the CIA and my taxes are overdue. And I'm like, wow, because you came from a phone number under United States. I believe you. I will give you all of my tax information. Speaking of that, has anybody got their taxes done yet? We're going to go drop ours off to be done tonight because we're lazy. We don't do it ourselves. I agree. I feel bad because I don't interact with as many people as I did when I first started. It was just too much, and I'm okay with not being. But I wouldn't say that you're not popular, Kate, because like whenever you come in, like people always acknowledge you, and I think you're a super special lady. That's just me, though. I like you a lot, and I think people have to understand like YouTube is. We all have different goals. And it's very plain, like in some of our Facebook groups, like who takes it super seriously and who's just kind of out there like for the ride. And we all grow differently. We all have different things that we plan to get out of this. But you've got so much going on. I can't believe you're even getting out like content right now. You're a rock star, lady. I think it will look less uniform when you add your, I hope so. I really hope so. So I try to get them to give me warranty. But they never will. It's like they know better, right? Okay, you're special. You're super special. We love you. Like seriously, I love when you come into our chats. Because I've been missing you on ours on Wednesday, but like I totally get it. That's not me like browbeating you to come into our chats on Wednesday. I know you've got a lot going on, and let's just, I mean, not that like YouTube isn't real life or like giving people insight into our life, but there are some things where it's just like real life just takes over. Like things that it's like, I'm not bringing nobody along. I'm not bringing my camera along. I just got to get through this in one piece. And sometimes that works really good and sometimes it doesn't. So I like your stuff though. But I'm telling you, like, I'm sure people think like I don't watch their stuff. Most of the time, like I watch a good portion of the people on my subscribed list. I just lurk. I listen, and I'm terrible for leaving comments because like I feel like I come across as like very stereotypical or like not sincere, and I don't feel like I add value with my comments to their content. Or like I always am worried that I'm coming across as like a know-it-all, especially like livestock stuff where they'll like say something, be like, hey, maybe it's this. Like in my real time, be like, hey, maybe it's like listeriosis, and we, maybe it's this or that. And I feel like they're like, oh, well, it's listeriosis, and your goats are dying because you're a terrible goat keeper. And it's not. I feel like my tone is hard to come across, especially when it comes to livestock. I get like a really, and you can ask Mark, I get like a really robotic scientific spin on how I'll talk about livestock. And I'm sure that is not everybody's deal. And I don't blame them. I don't feel like it's going to be everybody's deal. But that's just me. Which one did I use? I can't remember what green I used. I don't think it was this one. Wasn't that one? Yeah, but sure was. Got a lot of that green on there. I need to darken up and lighten up some of this green. I'll just take a smidge of white in with the green so we can kind of get just like a glisten to come off of it. I'm just going to add a little bit of depth. Just to see, like, we've got, because leaves have veins. Most of them do anyways. And it'll kind of give you like a general direction, a little bit more dimension with it. I don't know. Have you gotten any new rabbits lately, Kate? I know it seems like you've been building up your stock, like a lot. Okay, I've let you guys go. Oh no! Hey Jeremiah, you're back. I'm doing the same thing I was doing before. I'm still trolling this silly donkey, but I have moved to the flowers, so that's good. So Drop says, YouTube is more of a hobby for me. I like the content. If you like the content, watch it. If not, don't. I agree. I agree with that 100%. I'm just really bad. Like, I'll watch and then like I just don't leave comments. I don't know what it is. I know what it is. Sometimes like when I'm at work, I'm listening to what you're saying, because like if a supervisor walks in, I've got like YouTube up like on my phone, I'm gonna get in trouble. I usually have it like flipped over and I'm listening to things on my watch list that I've got queued. Evenings are just hard for me because I get like 3 hours from work to Andrew's. Oh, I totally get that. How old is Andrew again? He's pretty young, isn't he? That's a tough time. Like Joe's starting to get to her angsty teenager years or preteen years. So that's gonna be a whole nother adventure we're getting ready to go down on. So yes, big veiny leaves. So she says, I have a litter of 6 right now, and one I really like, but it's a boy. It always figures. All my most colorful or friendly will be bucks that I have no intention on retaining. Since I'm not into YouTube business, I'm more into social interact. Yes. Yeah. It does take a lot of pressure off if you're just there to kind of like build. I don't like community building. I would almost rather do lives like this than like give you a how-to on how to do goat's hooves. Mostly because like that, some of the stuff like I like to make videos on too, like it is so saturated with videos like that where I'm like, why? Nobody will ever get to see it, unless they're already subscribed. But then again, YouTube is a very fickle thing and can do weird things overnight and skyrocket a video that you've made a year ago. It got like 10 views and then all of a sudden it blows up. So I'm just bowing down to the almighty algorithm. I'm sorry, I need to wet my whistle. This is not a cold one. This is an energy drink because I'm bad like that. It should be water, but it's an energy drink. So much better. I do that to Mark all the time. Like I'll slurp out of that can and get. I am gross around Mark. Sure, it's like ew. It's weird because like he's listening in the other room, so I can kind of hear myself in the other room. So I feel like I'm doing like an immersion. My own voice, just not pleasing at all. I appreciate you guys sticking around for me this long. Just trying to get some of these leaves on here just to kind of break it up. I need to have some just poking out here down into her brow. And you don't have to do like the very cliche types of leaves. I mean, you can do them like fern leaves. You can do sprigs. So like probably one thing that I'll do is I'll just kind of make like one that comes down through here. And I'll probably make that into baby's breath with just like a couple dots of white. And put some up through here. Some through here. It's kind of the good thing about leaves. They just kind of pop up in bouquets like all over the place, which is good. It gives you like a lot of dimension, gives you a lot of depth. It helps you to layer build. And like with all things artistic or like that you're painting, you build from the back forward just so that you can get that layering, and it kind of gives your canvas a chance to dry. So like down here, she's completely dry now, but up here, like this is all wet paint, even though I'm layering, which if you give it a chance to dry, you can come back and really enrich these colors, but I am impatient. And I probably will later, but like that's going to take like an hour or so of curing, and I don't know if I have another hour of talking left in my voice. Probably just go over to Emma's and Watch her carve spoons. So what do you guys think of this so far? So I'm going to just give her a couple sprigs of like baby's breath, which, I mean, that can be super simple with just like giving white dots with the illusion that's a smaller flower that's just vining down. And that's a good thing, like with flora and fauna, like you can give so much texture and do minimal, and it just really gives your painting a whole lot of extra. It gives it that more, I don't even know how really to describe it, just a full feel. But you can do too much, and I'm really bad for that. Like, you know that old adage, you need to just stop while you're ahead. Yeah, I don't do well with that. I'm just gonna add me some white sprigs up through here, just white dollops to kind of give depth. You guys will hear me say depth and build texture. But it's so versatile, and fauna, especially paired with flora, is just, which flora and fauna, animal and plant, they just kind of play off of one another and make it real nice and legible. And there's so much variety in that as well. Like, I mean, really, if someone would look at that and be like, well, this isn't this flower. I'm like, well, how do you know? Maybe this is an exotic flower. Those are just happy little flowers on my happy little donkey. There are no mistakes. And see, like that, and I like this, like at this point where you're starting to add like really small details, that's when it really starts to pull it together and pop. So like I'm even going to give her eyes just like a reflection from the light. The only thing I will tell you with this is try to make sure that your point of light, when you were putting reflections in eyes like this, is in the same spot. Like, it will look a little bit like she's got white pupils that are looking over that way, but really it's just knowing where your source of light is, how it's hitting, and that it kind of translates across the entire painting, or else it just kind of looks weird. And I'm trying to look at this. There's just something about this nose that's driving me nuts, guys. I don't know if it's just because like I need to quit adding to it, because it's going to just keep pulling it further down. That's where I'm talking, like, sometimes you can do too much. Sometimes you can do too much. But there we go. I know it took me like 2.5-ish hours of talking, but there is our painting. And you guys can probably see it like a lot better now. So there's probably some more detail work that can definitely be done on this. But for right now, I'm going to leave it like this. And I've found sometimes, like, if you leave your painting for like a day or two and then come back, it either settles in the idea that, like, oh, it does look good. Or if there's something that keeps bothering you, you know, like, that's something you're probably going to have to come back and address. That's just me. That's just how I operate when it comes to painting. And the green looks perfect. Do you like the green, Kate? I hope it looks good. I'm just going to, like, hang it up somewhere in my craft room. Oh, Ashley, you're an artist. Thank you, Jeremiah. My mom was an art teacher. I'd like to think that I inherited it from her. I slurped tea last night. Mark glared at me. Kate, I swear, we're sisters. We're sisters. You even married a Mark. Do you guys want to know a really funny fact? So Mark married me, and I'm Ashley. Mark has a sister. Her name is Ashley, and then his brother Josh married an Ashley. So we have 3 Ashleys in the household. It gets crazy around Christmas time, because whenever someone says Ashley, we all look around. It's crazy. That's right, Drops. You do. You get another perspective when you leave it alone and then come back. Because, like, if there's something, like if this nose is still bothering me, or like how she kind of looks a little crooked through here, but really, like, this is the picture that I was going off of. It's still up. So that's the pic. See if I can move this so you guys can kind of see what I'm doing. So she's the one on the far left. So, like, even her face in that picture to me is like a little crooked, but that could also be like the way that it's layering back with like multiple animals and things like that. So yeah, I definitely could have done some more shading like down through here, but it is what it is. And that might be something to come back later to darken and then lighten to make it pop. Apparently you just upload. I did upload a video. It was set to go at 1:30. It's a painting video too. I tried to make it to where I had a live with painting so that if it drew anybody new, then there would be like content to follow. So they're not like here for painting. They're like, oh, you just do things with goats and no other painting. So I did upload a video. It's painting our beehive boxes. So it's just more of this on their beehive boxes. And I have more beehive boxes to paint, but I have painted a lot in the last week, so I probably won't paint again for a while. I'll probably move on to something different. Not to mention it's getting ready to be springtime. My chickens are laying eggs, and I'm talking with a couple other people about setting up a chicken egg or like an egg swap collaboration. So that might be coming soon too. But I think I'm done. You wonderful people have been here with me. Some of you have been here like the whole 2.5 hours. You are rock stars. You're fantastic. I've had a lot of people come in and come out. We've had some really great conversation. I want to do more stuff like this. Probably like once or twice a month, like have a live where it's more towards like drawing or painting or wood burning or just something different. Or even like, Kate, you've inspired me like with the doing your rabbit maintenance live. I'm like, I could do that with goats. There's a lot of potential for lives that are outside of like the normal content where it's like structured and edited and music is in the background and it's cinematic, but it's more like a real-time setting. So yes, Kate has been here the whole time. She's raising her hand. But I think I'm going to go ahead and sign off, and I'm going to head over to Emma's because Emma is a rock star and she's carving spoons and I don't want to miss it. So thank you guys so much for being here today with me for the 2.5 hour live that I soloed. Thank you, Mark, for being a mod for me while you're trying to work. Really appreciate it. But I will see you next time, guys. We do our normal lives every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you're ever free on a Wednesday night and want to stop in and chat, I'll have my better half, my partner in crime, and we will see you then, guys. Thank you so much. You all have a fantastic afternoon, and we will see you later. Bye, guys.